tens of thousands of phoenixes flew up into the sky, and their vicious might was an upheaval. Tens of thousands of phoenixes flew up into the sky, and their vicious might was an upheaval. He had the attitude of sweeping away an army of 10,000 and shaking the heavens. Needless to say, it was definitely because the Phoenix Realm's current plan had already succeeded. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to display such an attitude. Meow! Sharp whistles appeared in the sky as tens of thousands of phoenixes continued to hover in the sky. It was as if the stars were cupping the moon, and a purplish gold phoenix was clustered in the center. Jia, there's no need to fight. Today, all of you will die. In the moment that my plan was realized, your lives and deaths are already under my control. Ha! 1,000,000,000,000 years have passed. This civilization shall come to an end here. The next era will be controlled by our Phoenix race. Arrogant, crazy. In the middle, the Phoenix began to laugh maniacally. Its laughter soared to the heavens as it burst out from within the flames. This person was the Phoenix Ancestor. At this time, the Phoenix Ancestor was extremely arrogant and was in a crazed state of mind. It could even be described as extremely crazy. Long Fei's eyes moved slightly. Even though he was relying on his tyrannical cultivation and the courage of powerful experts, facing the madness of the Phoenix Ancestor right now, he still felt cold sweat trickling down his back. As for Xian Tan, his face was even paler at this moment. Phoenix Ancestor, you are wasting the dignity of a noble realm. Don't tell me you are not afraid that you will annihilate your Phoenix realm. Xian Tian crazily activated the treasures in his hands as he tried to find a way out. Haha, an emperor? Do you think that with the current abilities of our Phoenix clan, we still need to fear a kingdom? To tell you the truth, I have already refined the soul of the god of boundary of the 6 realms out of the 9 heavens and 10 earth. Coupled with my world-exterminating divine flame, it's already a divine flame within. As the divine Phoenix Grandmaster said this, her gaze wavered, looked at Long Fei, and a playful smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Of course, there's also the flame on that slut's body. However, now is not the time. Only your death can make that little bitch's wish to die come true. When the time comes, I will welcome the return of the old ancestor of the primordial Phoenix with a true fire of 10 directions. Who in this world can be his enemy? Who dares to be his enemy? Phoenix Ancestor laughed. As for Long Fei, her expression immediately turned gloomy and cold. It was incomparably cold. By this time, everything had become clear, starting from letting the Phoenix people notify him of Jojo's predicament. The grand scheme of the Phoenix clan had already begun, and all of these was to use him to provoke Jojo. With that thought, the killing intent on Long Fei's body suddenly reached its peak. You want to use me to provoke Jojo? You even want to use Jojo's power? I said no. Long Fei roared, the scarlet red in his eyes immediately erupting. Absolutely not. Jojo had done too much for him. Up till today, it could be said that Jojo used her life to exchange for it. And now, he was actually being used by the Phoenix clan, and they still wanted to use him to make Jojo into their Yuan Feng? Impossible. No. Long Fei, do you really think that you are unrivaled in the heavens? You dare to be so arrogant after getting rid of a few trash? Our Phoenix race is the true nobles of this world, the true kings that are born with it. Since the last civilization was annihilated, our clan has been planning this day. Do you think you can stop us? Impossible. Bastard, prepare to die. The divine Phoenix Grandmaster roared. In the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of phoenixes rushed over. Long Fei lifted her head slightly and looked over coldly. I don't care if you're a noble or a nobleman. You cannot touch my woman. Destroy. With an angry shout, Long Fei immediately attacked. The Big Dipper diagram floated in the air above his head as he threw out a punch. Boom! Dozens of phoenixes were instantly smashed apart by Long Fei's fist. He didn't even have the chance to approach Long Fei before he was directly annihilated in the air. And at this time, Long Fei's figure completely went berserk. With a fierce leap, he began to pluck green onions from the dry land. He entered the group of phoenixes. They began their slaughter. And at this moment, as Xian Tian looked to the crazily battling Long Fei, the hatred in his eyes grew even stronger. Crazy. The Berserk team is too crazy. And Long Fei, in such a short period of time, is actually so heaven-defying. I can't stay here for long. Xian Tian wasn't a frenzy as he thought. His gaze was constantly searching for a direction in the air, wanting to pull himself away. At the same time, regardless of whether it was Long Fei or the Phoenix ancestor, they did not care about him in the slightest. The only person the Phoenix Grandmaster wanted to kill was Long Fei. But at this moment, Long Fei actually wanted to go berserk for the entire Phoenix clan. As for the Emperor Xian, he had already put it behind him. Long Fei's body was moving horizontally in the sea of flames. The ancient armor had already been burnt and exploded by the flames. Yet Long Fei still continued to fight bare-chested, not retreating a single step. Bang, 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 bang. Under Long Fei's bombardment, phoenix after phoenix was crushed into dust and merged into the endless flames. In the blink of an eye, there was only a single breath left and right of him. Over 10,000 phoenixes were all directly killed by Long Fei. And with the annihilation of this phoenix, the flames within the Phoenix Valley below began to gradually dissipate as well. Wang Yun, Jiang Chunxiu, and a few other people from the Six Realms also began to recover. At this time, the people of the Six Realms were already scared out of their wits. Even if they were to struggle free from death, they were weak to the extreme. They didn't even have the courage to raise their heads. Other than Wang Yun and Jiang Chunxiu. At this moment, the moment the two of them broke free from the fire, they looked towards the sky. My lord, kill them all. I, your father, will F***K this Phoenix realm up today. Wang Yun was unable to contain his anger. His entire body was emitting a crazy fighting intent. But Long Fei simply shook her head. Leave this to me. You guys overturn the entire Phoenix Valley and find Jojo first. Long Fei instructed. His purpose in coming here was to bring Jojo away. Although it was important to overturn the entire Phoenix clan, Jojo's consolation was even more important. Wang Yun and Jiang Chunxiu understood. Of course, they knew in their hearts how important Jojo was to them. They immediately turned around and started moving unhindered in every corner of the Phoenix Valley. And also at this time, Long Fei's gaze directly landed on the Phoenix ancestor. Come, don't you want to use your father to provoke my woman? Don't be idle. This bunch of feathered animals have already been killed by me. Now, it's your turn. Long Fei said coldly. But at this time, the Phoenix ancestor also opened his mouth and said, I have to say, Long Fei, you have truly broadened my horizons. I could give you a chance. As long as you give up on resisting, once everything is settled, I can give you 10 beauties of my Phoenix clan. You can still be my Phoenix clan's son-in-law. How is it? As the Divine Phoenix Grandmaster spoke, her eyes kept looking in another direction. He seemed to be waiting for something. However, Long Fei directly went back to report, How is your ancestor? You think that your Phoenix clan, this bunch of feathered animals, can keep me here? I've already said before, in my eyes, there is only one Phoenix in this world, and that is my woman. You are not worthy. Cut the crap, die for me. The killing intent was hard to suppress, and the power was monstrous. The killing intent was hard to suppress, and the power was monstrous. After Long Fei's cold reply, she immediately made her move. Every fist strike was the pinnacle of power. Endless flames swirled in the air, dispersing the heaven and earth. Under the power of Long Fei's fist, it directly dissipated. And in Long Fei's eyes, there was only one thing, and that was the Phoenix ancestor. However, from start to finish, the Phoenix ancestor had not moved an inch. TSK. Do you really think your strength can destroy my clan? Do you not know that my Phoenix race is immortal and indestructible? With your strength, how could you possibly kill them? My sons, please revive. The Phoenix ancestor laughed wildly and roared. Following that, countless flames burst out. The cries of Phoenix once again rang out. Immediately after, phoenixes appeared one after another. It was precisely the Phoenix clan member who had been annihilated by Long Fei earlier. Long Fei's eyes became focused as she stood in the air. They're all alive? You can still live after being blown up? That's impossible. Even if it's indestructible, the system has already determined it to be dead. How could it still be alive? Impossible. Long Fei's eyes were full of doubt. The Phoenix possessed the immortal attribute. It was able to undergo nirvana, bathe in flames, and return from the dead. Long Fei knew this in her heart. However, this sort of thing also had its requirements. That was, the Phoenix had only died and had not been annihilated. However, Long Fei believed that the power that she had unleashed just now had completely destroyed every single one of the Phoenixes. Under such conditions, how would he revive? How to undergo rebirth? However, with the facts laid out in front of him, even if Long Fei didn't believe him, he had no choice but to admit it. You do have some tricks up your sleeve, but so what if you're revived? Since he's revived, I'll kill him again. Let's see how many times you can revive. But in the next moment, Long Fei caught up to him, the coldness in her eyes dissipated, and her killing intent rose again. After reviving, he could just kill again. After thinking about it, Long Fei immediately made her move. The edge of the god of boundary whistled through the air as all the raging dragons came out. Moreover, it wasn't just one, but 10. There were thousands of white lines. Ryu and Blel. And at this time, an extremely shocking scene appeared between heaven and earth. The entire world had become a battlefield for the great dragons and phoenixes. Only, this group of phoenixes were currently no match for the colossal dragon. In just a few short charges, the phoenix horde was immediately scattered by the giant dragons. With a furious roar, it died a second time. And so, the power of the raging dragon's town world dissipated. Long Fei raised her head, looked at the phoenix ancestor, and said, "Did you see that? So what if he revives with this kind of existence? I can wipe it off with a flip of my hand." Long Fei said coldly. At this moment, his body shot up into the sky, heading straight for the divine phoenix grandmaster. But at this time, in the void, in the midst of endless flames, the sky filled with phoenixes once again appeared. Second resurrection. At the same time, a change had also occurred in Long Fei's eyes. The corners of his mouth twitched as he struck out once more with the 7-star fist. If they didn't say anything, they would just start killing. Haha, go ahead and kill him. Every time you kill someone, they will be reincarnated. I'd like to see how long you can last. The divine phoenix grandmaster laughed coldly. He did not care about Long Fei's killing intent at all. It was at this moment that Wang Yun and Jiang Chunxiu appeared once again. However, panic was written all over his face. "My lord!" The two of them rushed into the battlefield. Wang Yun immediately took Long Fei's place and started a slaughter. Punch after punch. Overflowing fighting spirit and killing intent were generated, as if they were retaliating against the divine phoenix grandmaster's methods. And Long Fei had also pulled out and looked towards Jiang Chunxiu. Long Fei had a bad feeling about this. Jiang Chunxiu, who was full of zeal, also had a face full of depression. From then on, he no longer needed to think about the results. "Master, we searched the entire Phoenix Valley, but we couldn't find any trace of the mistress," Jiang Chunxiu said. There was a look of shame on his face. Originally, in the 10,000 beast world, the strength of the 3 emperor corpses caused their cultivation levels to skyrocket. He thought that he could accompany Long Fei on her journey to the 10,000 realms. But he didn't expect that he would be defeated in the first battle. The flames burned him for an entire day and night. If Long Fei had not rushed over, they would have been turned to ashes sooner or later. Furthermore, they had not done everything that Long Fei had instructed them to do, which made them feel even more guilty. This was especially true for those like Wang Yun who had come out of the battlefield. He was a tough man, and he immediately rushed over and left the remainder of the battle to him. And Long Fei, too, was stunned. "Can't find it. The entire Phoenix Valley is only this big. We can't find a territory that's only a few 100,000 kilometers wide?" Long Fei said to herself. he felt even more uneasy. Everything he did here was for Jojo. Right now, even Jojo herself could not be found, causing Long Fei's heart to be filled with worry. With a thought, Long Fei immediately turned around and looked towards the Phoenix ancestor. Old Granny, where is Jojo? With a deep shout, a heaven-shattering, killing intent brewed between the lines of his words. At this time, Long Fei was already truly angry. When he raised his head, his expression was ferocious, and his eyes had turned blood red. Ha ha ha! You want to find your woman? Sure, as long as you kneel down and beg for mercy. I'll let you go so that you can take one last look at your woman. How about it? Jia, aren't you awesome? Isn't there anything you can do for your woman? I would like to see if you can kneel for her. The Divine Phoenix Grandmaster said. It was full of playfulness. Kneel before your ancestors and wait for your father to smack you until you explode. Then, I'll throw you right in front of my lord. Let's see if you can continue acting cool. Without waiting for Long Fei to speak, Wang Yun shouted angrily. Crazy fighting spirit raged in his heart as he roared. And then, even more violent attacks followed. Phoenix after phoenix was torn apart by Wang Yun's hands. Boom, boom, boom. In the blink of an eye, only a few breaths had passed. This was the third time the omnipresent Phoenix had been killed. But at this point in time, the Phoenix ancestor was still calm and collected, his expression not changing at all. He looked at Wang Yun as though he was looking at a clown. It was filled with ridicule and mockery. And it was also at this time that Wang Yun completely disregarded all of this. Under the urging of the guilt in his heart and his boundless battle intent, he angrily took action and charged straight towards the Phoenix ancestor. Wang Yun. Long Fei fixed her eyes and shouted loudly. His figure also suddenly soared into the sky. Although Wang Yun was berserk, the power of the Phoenix ancestor was simply too unique. Even he didn't dare to easily face them. Furthermore, even now, he still had a face full of confidence. Long Fei was worried that this might cause an explosion, which was why she wanted to stop Wang Yun. However, it was already too late. The instant Wang Yun soared into the sky, the Phoenix ancestor immediately took on the form of a human, and in his hands he controlled 6 extremely terrifying flames. How dare a mere god of boundary act so impudently in front of this old one? When I roamed the world, your world hadn't even been born yet. Die! The Divine Phoenix Grandmaster roared. The Divine Phoenix Grandmaster roared. Monstrous flames suddenly rose, as though it had suddenly erupted following the change in the Phoenix ancestor's emotions. Boom! The endless flames of his opponent turned into a flame phoenix, soaring high into the air. With a flap of its wings, flames shot out. Boom! Asterisk Wang Yun's body was directly struck, and he fell heavily onto the ground, as though he had lost control of himself. Puff puff! As the 2 blood arrows shot out from Wang Yun's mouth, he suddenly raised his head and looked towards the phoenix in disbelief. He was filled with shock. How is this possible? How could she be so strong? Wang Yun was extremely shocked. His expression was downcast and filled with disbelief. At the same time, Long Fei also came to Wang Yun's side. He took a glance at it and did not say anything else. My lord, Wang Yun's face was filled with shame, but he hesitated. It's fine. This old thing has been on fire for countless years. It's expected for him to be stronger than you after being reborn from the fire. Long Fei said indifferently. If it was Phoenix Ancestor who was so easy to kill, Zunzhou would definitely not have let him live until now. After all, how could he allow others to snore by his side? The king of Zhou controls 10,000 worlds. However, the Phoenix race still possessed the power to fight against him. Moreover, he was a schemer. If it was Long Fei, such an existence would have been annihilated long ago. Hence, it was extremely common for Wang Yun to be no match for him. After he finished speaking, Long Fei lifted his head to look at the Phoenix Ancestor who had already taken human form. Is that all you've got? Wounding my brother is really something? Your great Phoenix army has already been annihilated by this old man 3 times. What are you so proud of? After he finished speaking, Long Fei's body flew up horizontally, directly arriving at the spot where he was facing the Phoenix ancestor. I'll say it again. Where is Jojo? Long Fei said coldly. In her eyes, the scarlet light was already close to burning, and even the divine flames of the Phoenix did not dare to burn, as it directly dissipated. Where? This seat said, kneel down. As long as you kneel down, I will bring Jojo out. Otherwise, you just have to wait to collect that little slut's corpse. The Phoenix ancestor was still as berserk as ever. They thought that Long Fei was helpless and had nothing to fear. You're courting death. Long Fei focused her eyes. The seven-star fist struck out. Boom! Boom! Countless amounts of flames dissipated, and in this punch, it exploded with a loud bang. The entire space that was filled with flames was split into two, and under Long Fei's punch, she created a huge path for herself. It was also at this time that the phoenix bodies that filled the sky appeared once again. It was truly the fourth resurrection, as if he was immortal and indestructible. Pa. However, it was completely useless. Long Fei had already ignited his true flames, and the energy within them was brimming with a ruthlessness. The fact that Jojo did not appear made the flames of anger in Long Fei's heart burn. She only wanted to get rid of Phoenix Ancestor as soon as possible. He did not believe that the Phoenix Ancestor could persist in the face of death. Therefore, even if the phoenixes that filled the sky resurrected, they would still not be able to stop Long Fei from moving forward. A large portion of it was destroyed in one punch. But Long Fei's second punch had already landed. Rumble, 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 rumble. The sea of fire descended, wailing and wailing everywhere. Countless phoenixes wailed in grief. But Long Fei was indifferent. But at this moment, the Phoenix Ancestor's hand suddenly jerked. He saw a flame shooting from the ground. There was a figure in the flames. Who else could it be other than Jojo? Long Fei, why don't you try again? The Phoenix Ancestor said with a sinister smile. Instantly, Long Fei's east wing came to a screeching halt. Looking at Jojo, who was within the fire, who seemed to be in deep sleep, his heart felt like it was about to melt. Old thing, what did you do to Jojo? Long Fei asked angrily. As for the Divine Phoenix Grandmaster, she had a face full of resentment and playfulness. No. It's not that I did something to Jojo, but you did something to her. I only imprisoned her. I'm waiting for her to take one last look at you being killed, and she will fully ignite the flames of extermination. But unfortunately, you have already helped me with everything. Do you know that the reason she is able to become the holy maiden of our Phoenix clan is because of the Nirvana sacred flame that was born in her body, as well as the spirit fusion flame that was born from her? The Divine Phoenix Grandmaster's face was filled with ridicule, and she paused for a bit before continuing. And the reason why everyone in my clan was able to live again without end was also because of her. Every time you exterminate my clansmen, her vitality will weaken a bit. How is it? Are you surprised? Or are you surprised? Right now, there's only a sliver of the Nirvanic sacred flame left on her body. If you have the ability, why don't you try again? Even if my people can't be resurrected, this little bitch will still use her life to die with us. How is it? Do you dare? The Divine Phoenix Grandmaster said. She didn't say anything as the complacency on her face intensified. In the end, he was almost crazy, and Long Fei, at this moment, felt her mind shake greatly. His face was instantly filled with panic. Looking at the unconscious Jojo inside the flames, he felt extreme pain in his heart. He had never thought that this would be the result. Instantly, his heart bled. If he had known earlier, even if Long Fei had to endure the flames of these phoenixes, he definitely would not have killed them once. Queen Bee's tail needles are the most vicious. Old thing, you deserve to die. Long Fei said fiercely. His voice was hoarse. Endless hatred was born in his heart. Go ahead and curse. In the world of Powerhouse, there are only advantages and disadvantages, and no benevolence. Only trash would be affected by emotions. But in the end, I still have to thank you. Directly omitted one step. Right now, this little bitch has already undergone nirvanic rebirth. As long as I kill you the moment she reappears, it will be enough to destroy all life. When that time comes, it will be the time for our primal phoenix ancestor to descend upon the world. As the phoenix ancestor spoke, his eyes flashed with a brilliant light. On one hand, he was controlling Jojo. On the other hand, he was looking coldly at Long Fei. It was as if everything was in his hands. Incomparable arrogance. Long Fei also quietened down in the air. He was completely stupefied. Looking at Jojo, who was in the middle of the air, her entire being became still. Incomparable self-blame. On the side, Jiang Chunxiu and Wang Yun fell into a state of panic. In between them, the only person who could fight was Long Fei. Relying on them, they weren't even a match for the Phoenix ancestor. Only Long Fei could turn the tide and break out of this predicament. Lord, don't listen to his one-sided speech. Furthermore, the matriarch is only unconscious right now, and her life is still with her. Jiang Chunxiu hurriedly said, but Long Fei didn't hear it all. No, Jojo is in danger now. I can feel that her consciousness is slowly dissipating. Long Fei shook her head and said, she looked up at the Phoenix ancestor and said, you won. Let Jojo go. No matter what you want me to do, I will agree to it. Long Fei muttered to herself. Her entire mind was preoccupied with Jojo, his eyes filled with helplessness. Anything is fine? Ha, then kneel down? Aren't you awesome? Isn't it possible for you to destroy my Phoenix clansmen with a flip of your hand? I want you to kneel down and repent. As long as you do it, I might release this little bitch as soon as my mood is good. The Phoenix ancestor laughed loudly. The air rumbled as flames shot into the sky. The air rumbled as flames shot into the sky. But towards Long Fei, everything else was completely different. In his heart, there was only Jojo, but the words of the Phoenix ancestor caused Long Fei's heart to be filled with struggle. Kneel down. In his entire life, he had never been cowardly. Even when he was weak and his strength was humiliated, he never gave up. But now he had no choice. In an instant, Long Fei closed her eyes. His legs would bend unconsciously. No, my lord, old Demonis, your father will fight it out with you. But right at this moment, Wang Yun angrily shouted. With bloodshot eyes, he directly attacked, not caring about the fact that he had been seriously injured. You're courting death. How dare a trash act so arrogantly in front of me? Even your master has to kneel in front of me, and you still dare to make a move? Dot! Boom! The Divine Phoenix Grandmaster casually waved her hand. The flames were suspended in the air, and before Wang Yun could even get close to them, they had already blasted him away. Boom! 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 Wang Yun's body fell one after another, as countless flames engulfed his body. In that instant, it was unknown whether he was alive or dead. Old War. Jiang Chunxiu also roared angrily, looking at Long Fei, who was already deep in prison. Moreover, it was unknown whether Wang Yun was dead or alive. The rage in his heart instantly surged. Who cared if he was an opponent? He just directly did it. However, the result was the same. Even if his current strength was not ordinary in front of the Phoenix ancestor, it was still not enough. In the end, just like Wang Yun, he was defeated in a single move. However, Jiang Chunxiu still stood up with great difficulty. Master, no, absolutely not. If Matriarch knew that you were to use such a submissive manner, you would definitely regret it for the rest of your life. My lord, please don't. Jiang Chunxiu kept howling. What was his voice now? Countless amounts of blood spewed from his mouth, looking extremely miserable. Long Fei's gaze kept changing, as if she was trapped in an extremely painful struggle. He looked at the fainted Wang Yun, looked at Jiang Chunxiu, who was constantly vomiting blood, and then looked at the Phoenix ancestor, who was laughing sinisterly in the air. There was also Xian Tian standing outside with a mocking expression on his face. His eyes instantly filled with a blood-red color. However, in the end, his gaze was still fixed on Jojo's body. Jojo, his woman. There must be no accidents. I'm sorry, I might have let you down. Long Fei indifferently turned around and said to Wang Yun and Jiang Chuanxiu. Then he turned around. In silence, his legs bent down once again. It was also at this time that in the air, the divine Phoenix Grandmaster laughed even more brazenly. Phoenix, who had revived for the fourth time, also laughed maniacally. Haha, Neil. So what if he's powerful? I heard it was a dragon. It's different if you have to kneel in front of me. Oomph. According to the rumors, before civilization, that dragon even wanted to fight with our ancestors for the hegemon of this world. Is this how it is now? Trash. Ha ha, Neil. This Neil will prove that our Phoenix race dominates the world. Incomparable arrogance. Incomparable arrogance. All of their eyes were filled with contempt and ridicule as they stared fixedly at Long Fei, waiting for him to kneel down. Not only that, at this moment, Xian Tian had also used the heavenly treasure in his hand to find the crux of the space. However, he did not leave. Instead, he turned around and looked at Long Fei with a pitiful expression. Finally, he fiercely said, Long Fei, you trash. It's like this for ancient world, and it's the same here. After this kneeling, you will be no match for me in your entire life. You aren't even qualified to be a dog. The Emperor Xian laughed loudly as she spoke. She then turned around and fled into the air. But the Phoenix ancestor acted as if he did not see it at all and allowed him to do as he pleased. He didn't stop them at all. Instead, he stared at Long Fei as if he was waiting for Long Fei to kneel down. Time. Minute by second. Long Fei's heart was bleeding. He could feel that his legs were extremely heavy. It was his own pride, his undefeatable heart, his final struggle. However, he had no other choice. Jojo could lose her life for this. He could also kneel for Jojo. But right at the instant when Long Fei's knees were about to hit the ground, an angry roar actually appeared. This voice was incredibly heavy, as if it was from above the heavens and the earth, carrying with it a towering hatred. It descended upon this land. Instantly, both Long Fei and the Divine Phoenix Grandmaster shot their gazes towards the sky, only to see a single scale slicing through the skies, spiraling towards them. Long Fei's eyes moved. As she looked at the dragon scale that appeared in the sky, a strand of hope suddenly emerged in her heart. Long Batian, it's you, isn't it? I know. You've always been there. Furthermore, these dragon scales are the dragon scales that you yearn for, am I right? As long as you save Jojo, no matter what you want to take away from me, I won't refuse. Long Fei said, almost like he was begging. At the same time, Long Fei also directly opened the system space. Whiz! A scale also directly flew out from Long Fei's spatial space and instantly merged together with the scale that flew out from the empty space. At the same time, a voice also directly appeared in Long Fei's mind. A voice that caused Long Fei to feel panic even now. Long Batian. Long Fei. Oh, Long Fei. I always knew that you were a piece of trash. But I didn't expect you to be a coward. My Dragon Clan's blood vein is the most expensive. Even the heaven and earth cannot make us lower our heads. And now, you are actually going to kneel before the Phoenix race. This is simply an extraordinary shame and humiliation. Long Batian's angry voice appeared in Long Fei's mind. But right now, Long Fei was powerless to refute his inner heart. Especially when Long Batian had mentioned the words trash and coward, it made Long Fei feel even more unresigned in her heart. However, he had no strength to speak at all. The two words that Long Fei feared and hated the most in her heart, the most were now said by Long Batian's mouth, making him feel powerless. For a moment, the corners of Long Fei's mouth raised into a bitter smile. It was incomparably bitter. He thought that he was already powerful enough, that with a flip of his hand, he could destroy 10,000 worlds and kill 10,000 worlds of God of Boundary as easily as slaughtering a dog. He was also the lord of the Dragon Court. But now, in front of this Phoenix Valley, in front of Long Batian, he could completely return to his original form. In that moment, Long Fei clenched her fists tightly and instinctively entered into the system. Level. Cultivation base. Still not enough. Once again, Long Fei thirsted for more power. But right at this moment, Long Baishan's voice suddenly came out once more. Kid, your woman isn't dead yet, but her life and death are in your hands. Lowering one's head is useless. Only the weak will lower theirs. Only by fighting, only by killing can I carve out a path of survival. I can tell you, there's only one path in front of you right now. Destroy the Phoenix Valley and kill the phoenix that is about to be born. Your woman can finally be resurrected. Long Fei's eyes began to shine brightly. Long Fei's eyes began to shine brightly. After incomparable loneliness came hope. More importantly, it concerned Jojo. Is this what you said true? Long Fei asked with a trembling voice. Long Baishan's words had a huge impact on him. Fight! It was Long Fei's favorite way to solve the problem in her heart. To be able to push it all the way to the end, he would never compromise. Today was the same. If not for Jojo, even if the battle had reached the point of collapse, Long Fei would never have said half a word of retreat. So, when they heard from Long Batian that if they wanted to save Jojo, they had to fight, and they had to destroy the Phoenix Valley, as well as the Phoenix's body within the prehistoric secret world, in order to save Jojo. In Long Fei's heart, the ashes of the dead instantly resurrected, full of fighting spirit. But at this time, Long Baishan's voice did not come out from the dragon scale. The two draconic scales merged into one. She instantly turned into a stream of light and returned into Long Fei's body. And no one cared about the entire process. Even the Divine Phoenix Grandmaster was still immersed in the ecstasy of humiliating Long Fei, and simply didn't care about the appearance of the dragon scale. What? You still want to resist? Then why don't you try? Ha! I guess killing your own woman with your own hands is also a different experience. The Divine Phoenix Grandmaster continued to laugh wildly. But at this moment, Long Fei's mouth formed a curve, looking incomparably cold and detached. Slowly, Long Fei stood up. You don't have the qualifications to make me kneel. As for you telling me to give it a try, there's no need to try. Today, all of you will die. Long Fei's voice sunk as the fighting spirit in her eyes grew. Immediately after, the god of boundary blade appeared in her hand once again. For a moment, Long Fei felt as if she had returned to the very beginning, his heart still as it was before. It was to suppress all enemies, using the strongest methods to trample the strongest enemy, drink the strongest wine, and court the most beautiful women. If it wasn't strong enough, it would become even stronger. If he was threatened, he would be killed immediately. Even though he was humiliated, he was still killed. Just as Long Batian had said, Long Fei would fight until the end. Only then would he be able to control everything in his hands. And at this time, the Phoenix ancestor's expression changed, as he completely could not understand how Long Fei was able to undergo such a change in such a short amount of time. His entire person seemed to have been reborn. It was even more powerful than their Phoenix Nirvanic rebirth. Rebirth could at most reconstruct one's strength and refine new life. But for Long Fei, it was more like a soul transformation. In the blink of an eye, from the abyss of despair, he descended into the 9 heavens. Long Fei, are you afraid that you didn't see reality clearly? Your woman is in my hands now. Every time you kill a phoenix, the vitality of your woman will decrease. Do you dare to make a move? The Phoenix ancestor's expression changed as he said with a cold expression. Long Fei's instantaneous transformation made it difficult for her to adapt. And Long Fei also raised her head silently. You don't dare? Then let's take a look. In this world, there is nothing that your father doesn't dare to do. With that said, Long Fei immediately made her move. The edge of the god of boundary continued to swing, blade after blade, opening wide and closing, Luzhan Xingye. Boom, boom, boom. In that instant, the overwhelming flames were annihilated by Long Fei's blade. The phoenix within the flames also died once again. But this time, Long Fei was not the least bit moved. Without waiting for the flames to appear again, he jumped into the air like a fish and slashed down at the Divine Phoenix Grandmaster. Immediately, The divine phoenix grandmaster's expression changed. "You dog, your woman is going to die just for your life. How dare she make a move?" However, the result is still the same. No one can reverse this fate. Today, my ancestor has returned and taken over this entire world. 10 flames, soul ignition. The Phoenix Grandmaster let out a loud roar, and throughout the soul flame formed from the six-sided god of boundary in her hands. Boom, boom, rumble. The power of the divine soul fire was incomparably violent. Not only did it refine the power behind one of Long Fei's slashes, it even directly encircled Long Fei in the middle. As for Long Fei, an indescribable space immediately formed before her eyes. All sides were filled with an ethereal feeling. Instantly, Long Fei's eyes became focused. Rules. Law of fire. In the next moment, Long Fei held onto the god of boundary blade tightly and directly slashed out. Boom! Asterisk the saber slashed out like it was attacking through the void, weak and powerless. Like a clay ox entering the sea, he disappeared without a trace. It was as if the space was the final resting place for power, and all power was wasted before the law of the Misty Law. Long Fei's eyes were filled with extreme astonishment. How could I believe that? Damn, how could I fight like that? It was as if the game was on, and it was invulnerable. It was also at this time that a voice was heard. "TSK, TSK, little bastard, have you seen just how powerful I am?" This was refined by the soul of the god of boundary, which controls all the laws of this world. How is it? Your strength is useless against the edicts. I want you to watch your woman die little by little. Phoenix Ancestor laughed heartily. It was as if killing Long Fei was already a foregone conclusion. And Long Fei, at this moment, had also fallen into an almost crazed state. There was simply not enough time. The longer he delayed, the more dangerous it was for Jojo. That was why he attacked like lightning. He wanted to bring Jojo back to his side. This way, he would be able to expose Jojo to danger as much as possible. But now, with the appearance of this divine abyss soul fire, it had immediately restricted Long Fei. There was no place left for Long Fei to use this kind of berserk power. This feeling was even worse than eating a fly. No, there must be a way. Even if it's the god of boundary that controls the rules, killing him won't be a difficult task. Now that the power of rules has turned into flames, is it impossible to break through? Impossible. Long Fei was so anxious that her heart was on fire. She continuously attacked, but all her energy directly disappeared. No matter how berserk he was, it did not cause any waves at all. It was as if this was an ethereal world where there was no physical force. Even if the power was sufficient to destroy the world, there was simply no one who could endure it. Haha, how is it? Isn't this feeling of helplessness great? Don't worry, you'll see an even better scene very soon. The Divine Phoenix Grandmaster's voice sounded once again. Immediately after, as if a scene had descended from the sky, it actually opened a ray of light for Long Fei. Instantly, everything that had happened in the outside world appeared in front of Long Fei's eyes. It was all fire. Phoenix filled the skies, resurrecting for the 5th time. One after another, they absorbed the nirvana flame from Jojo's body and once again appeared in between heaven and earth. While on Jojo's body, the aura had weakened yet again, and her vitality was already undetectable. Long Fei's eyes were wide open, her eyes filled with anger. The anger overflowing to the heavens grew in her heart. No. He bellowed. He bellowed. Long Fei was even more crazed. She raised the god of boundary blade in her hand and waved it around crazily. However, all his power had been wasted. It was completely useless. There was simply no force to be exerted. All the power vanished without a trace the moment it descended. Ah! No! Long Fei roared. Her throat was already hoarse. Under the extreme anger, his eyes became bloodshot. It was blood-red in color, like a pair of bloody eyes. It was incomparably terrifying. When this scene fell in front of the Phoenix Ancestor's eyes, He began to laugh even louder, very angry. Trash. You think you can move the foundation of my Phoenix Valley? You overestimate yourself. The divine Phoenix Grandmaster's face was filled with ridicule. It was filled with disdain. He didn't care about Long Fei at all. And at this time, following the revival of every single member of the Phoenix clan, Jojo's body instantly became illusory. It seemed that the power of the nirvanic sacred flame had been completely used up. For a moment, Long Fei was even more driven mad. He saw all of this happen. Every single change on Jojo was like a long spear that viciously pierced through his heart. Especially at this time, the aura around Jojo's body had disappeared in an instant, causing Long Fei's heart to spasm, as she felt incomparable pain. No, Long Fei's mind was in a mess, as blood and tears fell from her eyes. A pair of fists powerlessly struck out, trying to break free from the restraints. However, there was no reaction at all. Long Batian, help me. I know. You definitely have a way to break free from this restriction, right? Lend me your power. Long Fei linked to the system's space, and her consciousness crazily rushed into the dragon's scale. But the result made Long Fei completely disappointed. No response. Long Batian acted as if she had never appeared, and there was no response. There was not even a single fluctuation. It was as if he had really disappeared. Long Fei knew that she could no longer count on Long Batian. No, there must be more power. These god of boundary don't even have the courage to fight against me. Now, their powers can bind me. Impossible. Long Fei kept pondering. It was locked directly onto the system. Level still needs to be upgraded. If I were to level up now, this spiritual energy would be able to break me in an instant. Long Fei looked at the experience bar that was far away, and her mood sank to the bottom. Without a doubt, as long as he leveled up now, nothing would be a problem. However, it was already too late. 700 billion experience was simply impossible. Suddenly, Long Fei's eyes focused on the experience elixir in the system. Putting aside what he had consumed before, what he had left behind for Li Yuanba and the others, there were still 78 of them. 30 billion a medicinal pill. 700 billion. I only want 23. Long Fei's eyes narrowed, and, as she lifted her head, she looked towards the Phoenix ancestor, and a sneer crept up the corner of his mouth. No one can humiliate my woman like this in front of me, so today, you must die. Long Fei said fiercely. It didn't matter if the Phoenix ancestor heard it or not. After he finished speaking, the flames of madness burned in his eyes. Subsequently, one medicinal pill after another was consumed. In the blink of an eye, 5 medicinal pills were consumed, and the experience bar, visible to the naked eye, soared to 150 billion. But Long Fei did not stop moving at all, and directly took out another 5 pills. He directly swallowed another. But right at that moment, the system's voice suddenly appeared. Ding! Player's current physical body can only bear 5 experience elixir. If you continue to consume it, it might cause your body to be unable to bear the weight. Please consider carefully. The system's voice appeared. There was a direct alarm, and the lights went off. Ding! Ding! The sound echoed continuously in his ears. But now, Long Fei didn't even want to listen to him. He could only watch as his woman died in front of him. Impossible. Even if he were to die and fight for that last sliver of hope, Long Fei would not hesitate at all. The moment Long Fei swallowed this pellet, she could also feel a surge of crazy energy wreaking havoc in her body, filling her bones and flesh, and even scurrying wildly through her acupoints and meridians. In fact, Long Fei had an intuition that if she continued to swallow the pill, her physical body would collapse. But Long Fei didn't have a choice. Even if he had to die, he would fight. Then, another pill entered his mouth. This time, the feeling was even stronger. The crazy power directly made Long Fei wish he was dead. Every inch of his skin was filled with an explosive feeling, as if it was about to burst out of his body. Ding, player's body is in danger. Please stop devouring immediately, otherwise the body may explode. Ding. The system's voice rang out again. But Long Fei made up her mind. What the F asterisk CK? Are you sure you can help me restore my skills? You have your rules of the game, but I, your father, also have my own reverse scale. Following that, Long Fei cut off her connection with the system, and 17 pills appeared in her hand at once. Adding the 7 she had swallowed previously, it was just enough for him to level up. And at this time, in the air above Phoenix Valley, the Divine Phoenix Grandmaster saw Long Fei's crazed actions with his own eyes. At first, he was shocked. This was because the power contained within the experience elixir was too terrifying. Even she started to yearn for him. This is crazy. You are simply courting death. With your current fleshly body, you won't be able to withstand it at all. Swallowing pills? Do you think you can level up now? It's simply a pipe dream. Phoenix Ancestor simply did not agree with it. In his opinion, Long Fei was an idiot. With Long Fei's strength right now, if she wanted to level up, she could easily imagine how difficult it would be. Not only that, the power contained within this pill was terrifying even to her. Long Fei was already soaked in blood from this kind of power, and simply could not endure it. If this went on, he would be courting death. However, Long Fei completely ignored all these words, turning a deaf ear to them. His eyes bloomed with a crazed look. Then he suddenly swallowed it. 17 pills, one after another, were directly swallowed by Long Fei. It was also at this time that a resplendent light suddenly burst out from Long Fei's body. At the same time, following the appearance of this light, Long Fei's entire body turned into a bloody person instantly. Even if his physical body was invincible, he could still rule over everything in this world. It was also impossible for him to endure this kind of berserk experience. His skin, tendons, bones were all broken into pieces. He was unable to withstand the impact of the power, and his entire body was on the verge of collapse. But at that moment, the system's voice suddenly appeared. Ding! Because the player has consumed too many pills, his body has surpassed the limit. His body is about to collapse. Ding! Player can choose to use up energy to neutralize the energy within their body. Energy expended. Star pellet, longevity pellet, netherworld pellet, decay pellet. The system's voice appeared. Refine, Long Fei said directly. At this moment, his physical body was on the verge of collapse. Once his physical body collapsed, whether or not his soul could be preserved was a different story. Moreover, even if his soul could be preserved, he had to start over from the beginning. Long Fei was definitely not willing to experience this scene. Therefore, a choice was made directly. Ding! Congratulations, player, on absorbing Star Pellet, Longevity Pellet, Nether Pellet, Decay Pellet. Following the system's announcement. Long Fei only felt a strange energy directly acting on her own body. Warmth suddenly rose from the acupoints and bones of his entire body. At the same time, that destructive power was finally suppressed. Long Fei gradually regained control of her body. At this moment, he felt that some sort of strange change was happening to his body amidst the silence. Right? Purely the strength of the fleshly body. It was different from the cultivation of the system. Perhaps, when he absorbed the great Tao root, his fleshly body had already formed a great Tao fruit. Hence, it was completely different from the power of the system. Even though the system could still control the range of his physical strength, it could no longer affect him. And at this moment, following the fusion of these few types of powers, Long Fei actually felt it. His physical strength, which had been stagnant for a long time, was actually increasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Ding! Congratulations, Myriad Worlds, physical body leveled up. Current level, creative level. The system's voice sounded out. Long Fei was startled. Regarding this level, Long Fei herself did not have much of an idea. However, it was certain that the current strength of his physical body had long since become the strongest within the 10,000 worlds. One of them, at least compared to the Long Batian of back then, Yuan Feng and the others who had the qualifications to contend for hegemony in the previous civilization, they were on the same level. However, they had already become history. Long Fei was the only living legend. At the same time, Long Fei could also feel that with her current strength, it would be extremely easy to destroy this space. But other than that, Long Fei also had a suspicion in her heart. That was his level. No matter what, he had refined 24 experience elixir in one go. According to the numbers, the upgrade criteria had been reached. However, the system's prompt was only directed at his physical strength. Not a single word about the level. As he thought about it, Long Fei's consciousness immediately entered the system's space and checked the experience bar. But it didn't matter when he saw it, because in Long Fei's heart, he instantly felt an urge to curse. It was like 10,000 mud horses galloping across his heart. He was furious. System, what's going on? Why? I only have 500 billion experience points. What about experience? Did you eat it? Long Fei asked angrily. One had to know that he had originally wanted to rely on his skills to go berserk after leveling up. But now, the experience difference was too great. Ding! I've already warned you that if you want to save your physical body, you need to balance your strength. The neutralizing power has already fused into the player's body, the system said coldly. Suddenly, Long Fei was speechless. However, thinking about how the violent power was still within his own body, Long Fei felt a little better in his heart. System, can I still swallow experience elixir now? Long Fei asked. Currently, there were only 54 experience elixir left. Even if it was devoured, as long as it could level up, Long Fei would not be the slightest bit stingy. Ding! Player has reached the limit of swallowing today. Ding! Player can continue to consume tomorrow. The limit is 10 pills. Ding! Please treasure your life. Do not provoke the game's rules. The system prompted, especially the last sentence, which had a threatening tone to it. Long Fei was not satisfied and scolded him secretly. But this time, Long Fei really did not have the courage to continue swallowing them. He had no other choice but to do that crazy act just now. Even Long Fei felt fear just thinking about it. However, the strength of his physical body had already increased tremendously. It was already a walk in the park for him to break out of this predicament. Therefore, Long Fei was also unwilling to take the risk. Moreover, JoJo was already at the end of her lifespan and her body was illusory, on the verge of dissipating. Long Fei didn't have the mood to waste any more time. With that thought, Long Fei raised her hand and punched. Boom! Asterisk this time, the punch caused the entire space of fire formed by the spirit power to explode. Rumble. Countless divine laws raged, crazily attacking him. But to the current Long Fei, it was completely useless, even if he couldn't use the power of laws now. But Long Fei's body was already a type of law. It was even above the ordinary rules. Therefore, to Long Fei, the divine rules were of no use at all. But at that moment, the system's voice rang out once again. Ding! Congratulations, player, on clearing out the spirit rules. Triggering system quest. Collect 6 rules. Mission difficulty, S-Class. Time of mission, 2 hours. Task reward, 10 directions true fire. Qualifications to open the 3rd blade of the God of Boundary. Quest penalty, die. The system's voice rang out. And at this moment, Long Fei was briefly stunned before instantly becoming agitated. Combined with the words that the Phoenix ancestor had said before, how could Long Fei not guess in her heart that this 10-sided true flame was an extremely important part of the Phoenix race's rebirth? In other words, it was an essential part. In other words, if he was able to obtain this 10 directions true fire, then JoJo would have the possibility of achieving the ultimate rebirth. Ha ha! Long Batian, you really did not lie to me. Fight! Long Fei laughed loudly as she retracted both of her fists and raised her head to look at the Divine Phoenix Grandmaster. The Divine Phoenix Grandmaster's face was currently filled with shock. Had already been shocked by Long Fei's methods. It's impossible to break the rules with pure strength. What did you do? Also, how can the strength of your fleshly body be so tyrannical? The Phoenix ancestor's face was a mask of panic as he continued to speak. But Long Fei didn't even have the mood to respond. He threw out another punch with a backhand. Boom! As soon as the fist came out, the sky changed color. The world was oppressed, and the air was filled with wails. Countless phoenixes could not withstand the pressure and exploded one by one to their deaths. Pa 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 pa. One after another, sounds of bodies exploding could be heard. This was the difference. The difference between levels. No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. There's actually someone in this world with such powerful strength. You little beast, go and die. Immortal Tracer Soul Fire, Soul Resting Flame, Berserk Soul Fire, Enraged Sea Soul Flame, Sky Origin Soul Fire, burn for me. The Divine Phoenix Grandmaster said frantically. As his body continuously explosively retreated, he threw out the remaining 5 soul flames in his hand one by one. But Long Fei, her eyes fixated on the Phoenix ancestor's body, and she said coldly, "In this father's world, rules are used to break. Your laws that want to suppress me do not exist. Also, do you still remember what I said before? I say, if you all are to die today, I will absolutely not let you all have any chance of survival. Remember, Yuan Feng can't keep you, and Jesus can't keep you." These words I said. After saying that, Long Fei's hands slashed across, and a profound energy began to gather in her fists. His fist swept through the air, sweeping through the desolate lands, and shook the 6 paths of the world to his heart's content. TL. Chinese idiom equals chi 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 equals spirit equals chi 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 equals chi. His fist swept through the air, sweeping through the desolate lands, and shook the 6 paths of the world to his heart's content. TL. Chinese idiom equals chi 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 equals spirit equals chi 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 equals chi. It was as if the entire world had been crushed by Long Fei's attack, and everything began to rumble. Amidst the rumbling, a huge vortex appeared. Long Fei's figure was right in the middle of the vortex. His entire being was like a demon that had massacred the world, incomparably berserk. Especially that previous sentence, "No one can keep you," and it displayed Long Fei's invincible appearance. No, that's impossible. Such a power absolutely won't appear in this civilization. You actually possess a physical body comparable to prehistoric strength. Impossible. The Phoenix ancestor was incomparably shocked. His pupils exploded. It was filled with fear and disbelief. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. She had to ask herself whether the 6 types of laws of fire could even incinerate the heavens and earth. But he did not expect it to be broken by Long Fei's fist. Not only was he shocked, he was even more shocked now. Long Fei had not even thrown out her fist and was just about to execute her palm strike, but the entire world was already shaking, while her other 5 flames of laws unexpectedly stopped in place at this moment and were directly isolated outside the vortex that Long Fei was in, making it hard for her to advance even a single step forward. It was also at this time that 5 auras suddenly exploded from Long Fei's body, and Long Fei, with that, fixed her eyes. "This punch will torment my wife for you," he said. "I'll take your life and consume your life force." Longevity fist. He bellowed. Long Fei attacked brazenly. And then, the surging power of immortality exploded in this punch. Of course, it was not only the power of longevity. This was because strength was everything that needed to be built upon. The true exploding point was Long Fei's current strength of the creative tier body. Boom! Asterisk with a punch. The Phoenix ancestor's body was directly struck, and there was nowhere for him to escape. There was no way to dodge at all. Boom! 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 The body of the Divine Phoenix Grandmaster was sent flying. As an old woman, her longevity had been snatched away by this one fist, and she had instantly aged. It was as dry as the surface of his skin. His face was full of wrinkles, and he looked lifeless. Under this punch, the Phoenix ancestor instantly lost the ability to escape. His lifespan continued to decline and was almost visible to the naked eye as it dried up. It was as if his life force had been sucked dry of him. Impossible. I don't believe it. I am a phoenix, an immortal existence. How could I have the power to take away my life? This is impossible. The power of the attack was still raging, as the divine phoenix grandmaster howled crazily. It was as if he could not control his body at all, and he seemed to age uncontrollably. But Long Fei still did not stop moving. And then, the destructive power of longevity vanished. Replacing it was the power of nether. This punch is for plotting against my woman, plotting against my return. Netherworld Fist. With his fist, an overwhelming power of nether erupted out of Long Fei's fist. And then, the entire world lost its color. Endless flames were swallowed up by the darkness. Longevity, the soul of the netherworld spirit. Instantly, the Phoenix ancestor let out a miserable scream. A punch blasted out, actually shaking the Phoenix ancestor's soul out. And the boundless power of darkness, swept over in an instant, pierced straight through the Phoenix ancestor's soul with a single punch. Nice! Phoenix ancestor let out a sharp cry. Her soul was the Phoenix. At this time, under the effect of the power of nether, it was extremely painful. No, let me go. Release me, Long Fei. I can tell you how to save Jojo. Moreover, this old one has been very good to Jojo during this period of time. Patriarch Windsoul began to beg for mercy. However, Long Fei's mouth revealed a hint of ridicule. Playing love cards? Non-existent. Using Jojo's life force, the Phoenix clansmen were revived again and again. They had long since touched Long Fei's reverse scale and would definitely not tolerate it. Begging for mercy? Aren't you awesome? Isn't there no one who can stop your Phoenix clan's grand plan? Come on, why don't you try acting cool for lousy now? Long Fei said coldly. His gaze immediately locked onto the image of Jojo who was standing in the air. The expression in his eyes changed as boundless tenderness burst forth from them. Following that, Long Fei's figure moved and directly disappeared from her original location. The next moment, he appeared in the air and stretched out his hands lovingly. The figure of Jojo was caught in her embrace. The instant he touched it, a warm feeling entered his heart. Long Fei immediately felt an incomparable peace in her heart. It was as though he wanted to make time last forever. Scenes of the scene flashed crazily in his mind. Everything that had happened was sweet. But, right at this moment, the Phoenix ancestor, who had been almost killed by Long Fei's two fists, was actually reborn at this moment. A bright light flashed. As the flames faded away, the Phoenix ancestor merged with his spirit flesh once more, perfectly fine and unharmed. No, it shouldn't be said that he was safe and sound. In other words, he directly returned to his previous miserable state. His soul was weak, and his lifespan was nearing its end. His entire being was on the verge of collapse. But the one who was the most enraged was Long Fei, because with this rebirth of the Phoenix ancestor, the flames of life on Jojo's body were completely extinguished. His body, which was already illusory, suddenly disappeared. Little by little, it just happened right before Long Fei's eyes. No! Long Fei was hysterical. She anxiously tried to grab at it, but nothing could be held back. In this world, all of Jojo's presence had disappeared. All that was left was a cluster of flames. Long Fei, what can you do about it? So what if your power is incomparably berserk? In the end, he's still a piece of trash. In the end, your woman still died in front of you. The Phoenix ancestor that had just returned said, and at this time, the flames, as if containing Jojo's will, directly landed in Long Fei's hands. As if he had obtained a precious treasure, Long Fei directly held it in his palm and felt a light warmth coming from within, as though a knife was twisting through his heart. At this moment, Long Fei hated them greatly. If he had put in the effort just now and not given the Phoenix ancestor any time to rebirth, all of this might not have happened. Damn it, old beast, I won't explode today. Your father's surname is not long. Decay Fist, Mysterious Realm Fist, Great Tao Fist, Star Fist, explode for me. Long Fei's mind was in turmoil, and her killing intent soared to the sky. After Jojo disappeared, she turned into a cluster of flames at the left rear. In Long Fei's heart, his killing intent towards the Phoenix ancestor also exploded to its limits in this instant. At this moment, he didn't stop at all. As if he had gone mad, he threw out 4 punches. And those 4 fists were the 4 strongest powers currently contained within his physical body. In a moment, Long Fei's 4 fists were thrown out. The entire Phoenix Valley had collapsed. Everything, as long as it was the existence of matter, was completely annihilated. Of course, this power contained Long Fei's own will, so would naturally not harm Jiang Chunqiu and Wang Yan. But it was absolutely impossible for the Phoenix ancestor to be spared. No, don't kill me. Long Fei, please don't kill me. This time, the Phoenix ancestor began to frantically beg for forgiveness. However, it was all too late. Following the eruption of power from Long Fei's hands, the system's voice rang out. Ding! Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Phoenix ancestor. The reward is 2 billion experience points. Holy Source S worth 2 billion, striking value S 1 point. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Phoenix ancestor. The reward is 2 billion experience points. Holy Source S worth 2 billion, striking value S 1 point. Ding! Congratulations player on obtaining Nirvana Flames. Ding! Congratulations player for obtaining Body of Blazing Flame. Ding! Congratulations player for obtaining Phoenix Truth. The system's voice constantly rang out. If it was before, Long Fei would definitely be extremely excited. However, Long Fei's entire being was now immersed in the sorrow of Jojo's disappearance. Long Fei was not in the mood to pay attention to what happened to the system. But right at that moment, the system's voice rang out again, causing Long Fei's heart to tremble. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing the Phoenix Grandmaster. The reward is 6 directions of heaven and earth. The system prompted, but this is not the end. Shwa shwa shwa. 6 rules fell directly into the system's space. Ding! Congratulations player for completing the quest. You have received the system's reward of True Fire of 10 directions. Ding! Congratulations to player. The power of regulation has been devoured by the God of Boundaries Blade. The God of Boundaries Blade has entered the evolution phase. Time is unknown. The system's voice sounded out, but in Long Fei's heart, she was resurrected following the system's voice. True Fire of 10 directions, right? Ha ha. Jojo is also a phoenix. In that case, let's fuse them together. With a thought, Long Fei immediately merged the 10 cubes of true fire with a cluster of flames that Jojo, who was tightly grasping in her palm, had turned into. In that instant, an incomparable life force erupted from within. Long Fei's eyes were also filled with anticipation. Earlier, Phoenix Ancestor had already said that Jojo's true body contained a Nirvana sacred flame, which was a level higher than theirs. Since others could use this power to rebirth from the ashes, then Jojo, who controlled the energy itself, could naturally also undergo rebirth. Furthermore, the Phoenix Ancestor had already said before that these 10-sided true flames would merge with Jojo's Nirvana sacred flame and their flames of annihilation. They would be flames that allowed the primordial phoenix to rebirth. From this, it could be seen how tyrannical these flames were. Don't worry, even if I overturn the Phoenix realm, it won't be able to stop me from reviving you. Long Fei solemnly said as she looked at the flames that floated before her eyes and had already fused. At that moment, Long Fei believed firmly in her heart. He believed that Jojo would definitely be able to return from the Nirvana. As such, he immersed himself in the ball of fire before him, ignoring everything else. It was as if everything in the world had nothing to do with him. His world only had Jojo. In the distance, Wang Yun and Jiang Chunxiu were petrified. This was too crazy, especially Wang Yun. He was originally a battle maniac, and his praise for power had already reached an incomparable level. In his eyes, there was only one thing to do, to fight. He was a battle maniac. But now, there was only confusion left in his eyes. Is he even human? I feel that, Lord, if there was even the slightest bit of hostility towards us, you would have already been crushed. Wang Yun spoke in a low voice, his eyes no longer containing any luster. A deep sense of loss enveloped his heart. Before he met Long Fei, he thought that all his enemies would be in class. Even if he died in the end, he had a valiant reputation. However, Long Fei's every battle had refreshed his understanding of power. Especially just now, in his opinion, the power that Long Fei had unleashed was simply an unsurpassable peak. In front of Long Fei, he felt herself to be a child. No, an ant. Even the pressure from Long Fei's attack was difficult to withstand. Such a disparity caused Wang Yun's heart to be filled with a thick sense of loss. He suspected that Qin Wentian might have lived for a long time. However, Jiang Chunxiu was the exact opposite. At this moment, Jiang Chunxiu's eyes flashed with a bright light. The stronger Long Fei became, the more hope he had for Long Fei. Old war, I'm afraid you're bewitched. In the end, there are some people who cannot be compared with us. Your Excellency lived through the heavens and the earth, traversing through all realms. Isn't it our fortune to have such combat power? Doesn't that mean we follow the right person? Jiang Chunxiu said with a calm expression. Wang Yun was stunned. His eyes gradually regained some clarity. Yeah, I'm too obsessed with that. Lord, if I can compare with him, I won't be considered as an adult. Wang Yun came to his senses as his fighting spirit appeared in his eyes. And then he changed the subject and said, however, what you said is correct. Following an adult is the most sensible choice. After today, I will definitely follow my lord and ignite the flames of war, fighting through 10,000 worlds. Wang Yunjin said. After that, the two exchanged glances, then stood guard in the air and waited for Long Fei. And at this time, as time passed, Long Fei could more and more clearly sense that the flame before her eyes was brewing an endless amount of life force. Not only that, they were extremely powerful. Gradually, Long Fei's eyes became as gentle as water as they stared fixedly at the flames before him. His hands could not help but approach her. It was as if this flame was Jojo, possessing limitless yearning. Jojo, this time, when I return, I swear that I will not let you encounter any danger. No matter who it is, don't even think about taking you away from me. No matter who. Long Fei clenched her fist and said. However, at this moment, the flame that was brewing with limitless vitality suddenly flared up. Light came and went. It was originally burning fiercely, filling the 9 heavens. However, at this moment, it was as if a candle was flickering in the wind, as if it would be extinguished at any moment. Instantly, Long Fei's heart was in complete disarray. Swish! Suddenly getting up, Long Fei stared deadly at the flames in front of him. He only felt that there seemed to be a lack of some kind of power within the flame. The limitless vitality that had been brewing before rapidly decreased, and in the blink of an eye, it had fallen to the critical point where it was about to disappear. No, it shouldn't be. What exactly is missing? Why is this happening? Suddenly, Long Fei's heart shattered. He felt all his hopes crumble at this moment. Suddenly, a ball of flame flew out from beneath the Phoenix Valley that had been turned into ruins. At the same time, a phoenix cry directly shook the 9 heavens. Nice! It was incomparably sharp. It was like he was burning the heavens with his hatred and resentment. Yuan Feng. Long Fei's gaze was certain. He suddenly turned around. Instinctively, he already sensed that the purpose of this primal phoenix's appearance was Jojo. Moreover, at this moment, the direction in which Yuan Feng was charging towards was exactly where they were. You're courting death. Great Dao Fist. In an instant, Long Fei entered the battle state, and all the energy in her body condensed together. The power of creation swept through his entire body. Finally, he gathered all of his strength into a fist and punched out. At this moment, Yuan Feng also spat out a mouthful of raging flames. And then, he directly ignored Long Fei's power and continued to fly toward him. Boom! Asterisk rumble. Rumble. The power of one punch instantly exploded forth. The soaring flames were immediately scattered by Long Fei's fist. Even the flames that were carrying Yuan Feng's body came to a sudden halt at this moment and retreated abruptly. The power of the creation stage? How is this possible? Kid, who exactly are you? Yuan Feng's voice finally sounded. Yuan Feng's voice finally sounded. It was like a transformation between life and death, penetrating into one's soul. Even Long Fei felt her soul tremble from Yuan Feng's voice. It was as if Yuan Feng's voice transcended heaven and earth, surpassing this civilization and making it unstoppable. In fact, Long Fei could feel that if she did not have the system, she would not even have the courage to face this voice head-on. Who am I? I am your father. A thing that's been dead for who knows how long wants to jump out and bring disaster to this world. At that time, I should have killed you in my hands. I should have caused you to die on my Qilin arm. Long Fei said coldly. As a transcender, he didn't have any vulgarities, and Jubi was a skill that he brought along with him. Furthermore, Long Fei could guarantee that Yuan Feng could not understand a single word of what they were saying. As expected, after Long Fei finished speaking. At first, Yuan Feng's expression was stunned, but soon after, it turned into one of extreme awkwardness, although he could not understand Long Fei's last sentence. However, he was still able to understand the first sentence. Kid, you're courting death. Yuan Feng's voice was cold and indifferent, especially when the word dead was uttered. His entire body once again transformed into a phoenix as he crazily charged forward. But Long Fei's mouth twitched. He punched out once more. This time, it was the three Emperor fists. Or perhaps, it could be said that Long Fei had punched out 3 times in an instant. Eternal Life Fist, Decay Fist, and Unholy Fist. From a certain point of view, these 3 types of powers shared a certain connection with each other. At this moment, they complemented each other well. In fact, the 3 fists converged into one in the air. Damn it, Phoenix? Indestructible? Then I will take away your lifespan, suppress your soul, and rot your body. Let's see how you will continue to live forever. With 3 punches, Long Fei's figure also took a step forward. Behind him was Jojo, who was in the midst of fusing with Nirvana stage. Jojo had already blocked the attack for him, but this time, no matter what Long Fei said, Yuan Feng would not hurt Jojo. It was also at this time that the fist strength of the 3 emperors of Long Fei and Yuan Feng finally collided in midair. All he saw was 3 energies fusing into the flame where the origin phoenix was. Boom, boom, boom. Yuan Feng also attacked in a frenzy. Every time he attacked, a flame would appear. In an instant, the 3 streams of flames clashed against the power of the 3 fists. Ryu and Blell. Explosions followed one after another. But at this time, Long Fei's eyes showed a trace of unease. This was because in just an instant, the power he had released had been devoured by the flames. It did not cause any waves at all. It vanished into thin air. Not a single hair on Yuan Feng's body was hurt. At this time, Yuan Feng's face also revealed a sinister look. I never would have thought that there would be someone in this civilization who could cultivate to a life-creating body. Furthermore, do you have the power of the previous civilization? Looks like you should be the descendant of that old dog Long Batian. However, it's still not enough. Yuan Feng arrogantly said. Her eyes were downcast, squinting at Long Fei. It was filled with disdain. Long Fei fixed her eyes and muttered to himself. He never thought that Yuan Feng would actually possess such tyrannical strength. Impossible. Logically speaking, the current him is simply unable to succeed in the Nirvana stage. The key to his rebirth lies with Jojo. And Jojo's current strength, was something he had not touched at all. Thus, the current him is simply not a true living being. But why? He clearly didn't succeed in rebirth, but he still possesses such tyrannical power? Long Fei's thoughts quickly raced. He didn't understand it at all. Even if the Phoenix race was even more heaven-defying, how could an existence that had been annihilated billions of years ago possibly have such explosive combat strength? It was impossible. Otherwise, what would Long Batian have done in the battle against that civilization? Did this Yuan Feng not need to wait until today to undergo nirvanic rebirth? They had long since united the 10,000 worlds and established civilization. Was there even a need to stare at the present? The more he thought about it, the more Long Fei felt that it was inconceivable. He felt that he had made a mistake somewhere. But this time, Yuan Feng attacked again. Moreover, his eyes revealed an anxious look, as if he wanted to finish Long Fei off as quickly as possible. Long Fei didn't have time to think, as she immediately threw out a punch. At this time, the power of his body was the only thing Long Fei could rely on. Furthermore, Long Fei did not believe that her own physical body, which had already reached the creative stage, could not defend against the primordial phoenix. Boom! Long Fei narrowed her eyes and put down all of her distracting thoughts. She mustered her strength and mustered her strength. And then he suddenly attacked. Boom! 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 In an instant, the man and the phoenix collided in midair. In that instant, the entire sky became incomparably resplendent. As figure moved up and down, changing constantly in the blink of an eye as the flames swept about. Punch after punch came from his hand. He had used almost all of his strength. However, Yuan Feng was also brutal, simple, and crude. He only constantly bombarded out the power of fire. The endless divine phoenix feathers flapped in the air, and with every flap of its wings, it would descend. They were all descended from the boundless power of fire. Rumble, 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 rumble. The more they fought, the more brutal they became. Under the power of the two, the Phoenix Valley, which had already been reduced to ruins, once again sank into what seemed like the resplendent light of hell. Not a single trace was left. Even Wang Yun and Jiang Chunxiu were unable to withstand the impact of this power. He couldn't hide in the void far away, waiting anxiously. The Lord shouldn't be in any danger, right? What kind of existence is this to be so violent? Just the power of fire is enough to force you to such an extent. Damn it, in front of this kind of power, we are nothing but ants. We can't help at all. Jiang Chunxiu kept sighing and shaking his head. Although Wang Yin didn't say a word, his expression still betrayed him. At this moment, in his heart, there was only unwillingness and self-blame. However, it was useless. He was even more clear that if he were to go up against a power that even Long Fei found it difficult to face, he would be instantly burnt to ashes. In other words, at this moment, they could only wait and do nothing. Time spun. In the blink of an eye, several hours had passed. Long Fei acted as if she did not know exhaustion as she fought like a madman. From the sky to the ground, from the void to the 9 heavens. Like an indefatigable machine, she was entangled with Yuan Feng from beginning to end. At the same time, Yuan Feng's aura also became increasingly violent. A will of death burst forth from his strength. Not only that, it was getting more and more violent, as if it wanted to destroy everything. Boom! The fight between Long Fei and Yuan Feng had finally come to a halt. Ha! Lousy understands. So it turns out that the Phoenix ancestor, that old thing, has no idea at all. The fire that can make you rebirth is on your body. In other words, you're the third flames of nirvana. In that case, no matter what, I will kill you. Long Fei finally understood the problem. Seeing this kind of flame that contained the intent of annihilation, Long Fei's heart instantly became clear. Everything made sense. The reason why Yuan Feng wanted to rush towards Jojo so badly was because of that. It was because he wanted nirvana too. Originally, Phoenix ancestor said he wanted Jojo to see him dead and breathe the flames of annihilation. However, he hadn't died, even though Jojo still had not opened her eyes. But Long Fei believed that she could feel everything. Thus, he was safe and sound. Jojo naturally could not produce this so-called life-extinguishing flame. And yet, the origin phoenix had its own flames of extermination. Instantly, Long Fei's eyes filled with a bright light. He turned around and glanced at the nearly extinguished flame. When he looked at Yuan Feng again, a towering fighting spirit was born in his heart. That was, he had killed Yuan Feng. Only in this way would he be able to blow up the life extermination fire on Yuan Feng's body. This way, it would directly become the last flame of Jojo's Nirvana rebirth. Thinking about it, Long Fei's spirit once again soared. Even in the previous battles, his physical strength had been damaged. However, he would not retreat now. Moreover, it had to be rigid. For Jojo, even if I have to be crazy again, I will not retreat. Long Fei looked at Yuan Feng with madness. At this moment, Yuan Feng's eyes were filled with boundless rage. Because everything was as Long Fei had said. He also wanted to undergo nirvanic rebirth. The current him relied entirely on this life-extinguishing flame. Even though his soul was unparalleled, he was still unable to unleash his true strength. Moreover, this condition didn't last long. It was already not easy for him to walk out of the prehistoric secret world with just the power of the life-extinguishing flame. Only through nirvanic rebirth could he truly be reborn into this world. Especially the battle with Long Fei just now. It made him feel like she was about to be annihilated. Therefore, the current Yuan Feng hated Long Fei to the core. "Brat, you are forcing my enlargement stroke," Yuan Feng said, extremely gloomy. Long Fei was also stunned. He hadn't expected this at all. Yuan Feng could still say such words. This was simply Xiao Bai's F***king name. "Big move. Fine, you can do it. I'm right here. If you can destroy my body, then it's my loss." Long Fei said. It did not show any sign of weakness. The power of his body, which was at the level of the creation, truly made Long Fei feel what power was. And it was a heaven-defying defense. Even if Yuan Feng had used all of those methods just now, Long Fei would still be injured. However, there was no fatal injury at all. Moreover, even if he was injured, it would only take an instant for him to recover. It could be called heaven-defying. The flames on Yuan Feng's body burned even more intensely than before. Long Fei's words directly slapped her face. This made him feel that his prestige had been infinitely challenged. "Brat, who do you think you are? Do you know that you are provoking the dignity of a lord of creation?" Yuan Feng said coldly. From the very beginning, he had never placed Long Fei in his eyes. But he never thought that Long Fei would actually give him such a big surprise. Not only did he possess a body comparable to that of a creator, his strength was also unpredictable. "Didn't I just say that I'm your father? What is it? You're not satisfied? Since you're not satisfied, I will advance another grade. Now, I'm your grandfather." Long Fei did not care either. In any case, after knowing the power that Yuan Feng currently possessed, it had already been decided. Either you die, or I die. It was impossible to retreat. Moreover, if even the Phoenix ancestor could produce 20 billion experience, then what about the primordial Phoenix before him? One had to know that this was one of the strongest enemies that Long Fei had ever encountered. However, the system had not categorized this level before. Long Fei was also unable to confirm. In other words, this was a super boss that was beyond the scope of the system. His attitude towards the boss. It was obvious. He absolutely could not be terrified. So, it didn't matter if it was for Jojo or for herself. Long Fei had a fight. Good. I didn't expect to meet such a reckless person right after I was reborn. But it just so happens that you have the aura of that old loach on you. Back then, if it were not for him setting off the battle for the creation of a power, our Phoenix race would not have reached such a state. Since you've appeared, I shall first collect some interest and completely cut off that old loach's path of return. Die for me. Phoenix in the world, annihilate. Yuan Feng roared like a madman. After spouting out 3 good suns in a row, she was completely enraged. He then transformed into the body of the primordial phoenix and soared into the sky. With a flap of its wings, it flew across the heavens and the earth. An area of tens of thousands of kilometers was transformed into a fiery sky. He was like a phoenix of destruction, descending upon the world with one strike. Long Fei lifted her head slightly, feeling shocked in her heart. It was too shocking. At this moment, even though they were thousands of miles away, they could still feel powerful destructive auras gushing towards them. Compared to before, it was countless times stronger. A hint of insanity emerged within Long Fei's eyes. He turned around and looked at the flames where Jojo was. F*CK, come. This old man wants to see if you, the Phoenix, are the true ruler in this world. Long Fei roared out angrily as she moved the fists in her hands. In the blink of an eye, he had already sent out 6 punches. Every punch was filled with a different kind of power. Boom, boom, boom. His fists shot towards the sky, and 6 streams of power tore through the air as he moved forward against the tide. As they advanced, they even merged into one. In an instant, it transformed into a powerful shockwave. It was as if the entire sky of heaven was about to collapse. However, at this time, the phoenix formed from the primordial phoenix directly spat out a flame. The flame was independent of the heavens. The difference was it was the endless life extinguishing fire. It descended from the sky like a supreme being within the flames. Sigh. Asterisk, sigh. Asterisk in the blink of an eye. A vast expanse of space was burned to nothingness. This flame was the world-exterminating flame. Everything was unstoppable, and Long Fei's fist just happened to be on this trajectory, soar into the sky. As for Long Fei's figure, she too soared into the sky without hesitation. Just like pulling onions and onions from dry land, he flew for tens of thousands of miles in the blink of an eye. In contrast, Long Fei soared into the sky. A primordial phoenix descended from the sky. Their speed was extremely fast, as if they were going to have a final showdown. Incomparable savagery. At this moment, their powers finally collided in the void. Ryu and blow. Ryu and blow. All of a sudden, waves of destructive power that could destroy the world and all living beings surged in all directions. This time, it didn't matter if it was Long Fei or Yuan Feng. They all unleashed their most powerful attacks. The terror was indescribable. It could be said that the aftermath of this power alone was enough to frighten the entire universe. If not for the existence of the Phoenix Valley, which was an extremely mysterious existence with no connection to anywhere in the entire 10,000 worlds, the 10,000 worlds probably wouldn't have existed anymore. A moment later, the rumbling sound disappeared. Yuan Feng also reverted to her human form with a face full of pride. Haha, you're even more arrogant than that. I am in this world. The entire world is under my capture. The Origin Phoenix was incomparably berserk. The Origin Phoenix was incomparably berserk. His voice a unique charm to it. He was unscrupulous, as if everything was within his grasp. It was as if everything was in his hands. Just like how, when Long Fei used this move, she would definitely die no matter what. It was also at this time that Long Fei's figure loudly appeared. However, it still fell from the sky. Furthermore, Long Fei had already become a man in flames. His entire body was engulfed in the flames as he suddenly fell to the ground. Boom! A loud boom echoed out. My lord! My lord! Wang Yun and Jiang Chunqiu's figures dashed out in an instant. However, before they could even get close, they were directly hit by the aftermath of Long Fei's fall. Bang bang. Both of them were pushed back by this force, heavily injured. Ha, one great trash, 2 lame duck. You think you can stop my Nirvana stage? Impossible. Yuan Feng coldly shouted. Her gaze turned as she stared at the flames in the air. This cluster of flames was especially unique. However, it had almost disappeared. It was as if it was unable to continue due to the lack of some kind of core energy. Instantly, Yuan Feng's eyes exploded with boundless greed. Huh, the nirvanic sacred flame. The true flame of 10 directions. No, there's still the ice fire? Haha, there's also an extremely pure phoenix true soul. All of them are mine. They can become my nirvana rebirth, the nourishment of the land and skies. Yuan Feng laughed out loud as her feet constantly moved. Within a single step, he was right before the flames. The greed and desire in his eyes were not concealed in the slightest. In the next moment, Yuan Feng stretched out her hands, wanting to grab the flame. Even his hands were shaking. From this, it could be seen how excited he was. But at that moment, a flame shot straight up into the sky. In the blink of an eye, the speed was so fast that it was ever-changing. It was impossible to capture. Joy appeared on Wang Yun and Jiang Chuanqiu's faces. My lord, I knew that you would be fine. Both of their eyes were filled with certainty, staring straight at Long Fei's figure. That's right, that figure was Long Fei. Originally, Long Fei had thought that it would be a battle between him and Yuan Feng. The life-extinguishing flame directly pierced through the flesh, wanting to break it apart. However, the current Long Fei's body had already evolved to an indescribable degree. The transformation between quantum particles could be completed in an instant. Most importantly, the moment the boundless life-extinguishing fire invaded Long Fei's body, the power that erupted from killing the Phoenix Grandmaster immediately activated. Body bathed in fire. Therefore, this also led to the scene of Long Fei transforming into a fireman. In other words, Long Fei was not injured at all. Not only was he not injured, but he was using the power of the fire of destruction behind him. It formed a suppressive force on his body. It was like the blood serum in an apocalypse film. As for Yuan Feng, she was enraged. His eyes instantly opened wide in anger, and like a roar of rage, he roared, "You dog! You are courting death!" Yuan Feng was unable to contain her anger. Just a little more, and he would be able to obtain that cluster of flame and undergo the final nirvana stage. However, he was interrupted once again by Long Fei. Courting death? With just your fire? I'm sorry, but I already have an antibody against your power. You can't kill me. If you can't accept it, then fight. Long Fei's entire body was bathed in flames, as she said disdainfully. As he said that, Long Fei's entire person charged towards Yuan Feng, his fist soaring through the air as it descended with a loud bang. Boom! Asterisk. At this time, Long Fei's power was even more berserk. As before, the 6 types of energy gathered into a fist. However, there was an even stronger power that suppressed the life-extinguishing flame than before. At this moment, even Yuan Feng had a look of shock on her face. Body bathed in fire? Restrain my power? Damn it, boy, who exactly are you? They clearly have the power of Long Batian, that old loach, but why would they still possess the secret that no one in our clan can pass on to them? This is impossible. Yuan Feng explosively retreated, her expression incomparably gloomy as she felt the aura being emitted from Long Fei's body. As for Long Fei, the corners of her mouth formed a cold smile. A secret that was not passed on? Non-existent. In front of the system, all of his tyrannical power would be turned into his own. No matter how amazing you are, as long as you are exposed by the system, you are mine. There was no limit to race or strength. As long as he could unleash it, it would instantly become his technique. Look, why are you asking me who I am? If you think your grandfather isn't satisfied, then why don't we go all out and become your ancestor? Remember, your father is your ancestor. Long Fei retorted. With that, Long Fei took another step forward and punched after another. It was like an autumn wind sweeping through fallen leaves, domineering and powerful. Rumbling filled the air. Rumble, 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 rumble. The whole sky shook. However, the current Yuan Feng, in the face of Long Fei's berserk power, hid to the side, not daring to face him head-on. Because at this moment, under the flames, Long Fei's power was completely suppressing him. Even if it was the life-extinguishing flame, it was still amazing. Long Fei was immediately in a semi-immune state. It was just like an awesome sentence. They were all foxes that had lived for 1,000 years. No one was allowed to chat with them. Boom, boom, boom. The more Long Fei fought, the more brave she became. The current situation was a one-sided suppression. Under the flames of the bath, it was as if Long Fei had developed the peerless state. His battle strength had increased tremendously. On the other hand, Yuan Feng was currently being suppressed by Long Fei. Punch after punch of force bombarded his body. Even the life-extinguishing fire had lost its luster under Long Fei's berserking power. Damn it, damn it. The phoenix has appeared in the world. I shall destroy it. Yuan Feng bellowed. He once again transformed into the body of a phoenix. But this time, however, it was useless for Long Fei. Not only was it not harmful to Long Fei, it made him feel as if she was bathed in spring breeze and could even refine the energy of the flames for her own use. Ha ha ha, awesome. I never would have thought that the so-called Yuan Feng would die by his own methods, right? However, this is all your own fault. When you schemed against me and Jojo, everything was already decided. 6 punches in one ultimate fist. Annihilate. With that said, Long Fei's fist started to move in a chaotic manner. Moreover, Long Fei's figure was also moving upstream, just like before. However, Long Fei's figure seemed to have become one with the fist, causing her entire aura to become even more berserk. Boom, boom. In an instant, Long Fei's fist directly pierced through the sky of fire. No! At the same time, a blood-curdling screech filled the air. Soon after, the endless phoenix vanished and turned back into a phoenix. However, at this time, Yuan Feng's aura had already been thrown into disarray. Her true soul had already been shattered. The power of the life-extinguishing fire was no longer enough to support him in condensing his body. No, don't kill me. I am the earliest creature in this world. Let me go. We will rebuild civilization, and I will make you the master of civilization. Yuan Feng begged for mercy. However, it was completely useless. Even if it was for Jojo's sake, Long Fei would never let him go. So what if it's the earliest creatures? Restoring civilization? I don't have that kind of ambition. As for you, die for me. With an angry roar, Long Fei unhesitatingly pressed down. And at this time, no one knew that it was outside the Phoenix Valley. Xian Tian's figure returned, and right in front of him, there was a flickering light. It was precisely the scene of Long Fei's battle. Damn it, I didn't expect this dog to be so strong now. Even a civilized phoenix above is no match for him, Xian Tian coldly said. His eyes were filled with resentment. Originally, he thought that Long Fei would definitely die today. Even the Divine Phoenix Grandmaster could easily kill Long Fei. However, not only was Phoenix Ancestor killed by Long Fei, now, even Yuan Feng was puking in Long Fei's hands. Especially witnessing this scene with his own eyes, Xian Tian was unable to accept it. He felt extremely stifled, because he hated Long Fei too much and wished that he could swallow him alive. But now, seeing how berserk Long Fei was, the killing intent in her heart immediately turned into fear. This change in attitude made Xian Tian even more unwilling to accept this. However, at that moment, a figure slowly appeared in the air beside Xian Tian. You're right. Long Fei had indeed surpassed all of Real Face's expectations. Real Face also didn't expect that after walking out of Ancient World, he would actually grow so fast. If I knew it would turn out like this, I would have killed him at all costs when we were in the Ancient World. This voice was none other than the voice of the Emperor. However, it was only a clone. Lord, this kid has already gained power. If we don't kill him soon, I'm afraid that he will become a disaster in the future, Xian Tian said. Now he was truly afraid. He wanted to kill Long Fei, but he was also clear that Long Fei wanted to kill him even more. Otherwise, he wouldn't have disregarded Yuan Feng and directly attacked him in the prehistoric secret world. Therefore, right now, in his heart, Xian Tian urgently wanted to kill Long Fei first, even if it meant killing him. This way, he could be at ease. Don't worry, he won't live past today. I had originally thought that Yuan Feng was Real Face's true opponent today. I never thought that it would be broken by this little bastard. However, the result is also the same. No one can prevent me from obtaining the true soul of the primordial phoenix. Zhou said indifferently. Then his hands moved, directly slicing through the air and fiercely striking down with his palms. At this time, Long Fei's fist was just about to approach Yuan Feng. Even Long Fei was slightly relieved. Everything is finally coming to an end. Long Fei relaxed her mind. As long as this punch landed, Yuan Feng would die. All of them were paragons. Jojo could rebirth, and she could also take down this super big boss herself. But right at this moment, Long Fei's punch stopped. It was as if Yi Xiao had met with some kind of power that directly blocked his power. Not only that, Long Fei could even feel an enormous pressure falling from the sky. When he raised his head, all he saw was a palm strike descending. Boom! Immediately after, the two fists collided, and a huge, explosive force shook the air. In an instant, Long Fei raised her head and looked at the figure in the sky. The anger in his heart surged to the limit in an instant. Honorable Zhou, with a cold snort, Long Fei's body went dry as she directly flew to the sky and faced the old man in a cold manner. I never thought that by laying down such a heaven-overflowing situation, even taking on the 6 god of boundary that were sitting down, not only were you not killed, you trash, you would even be able to reach your current state. But unfortunately, with the arrival of the real face, everything ended. In any case, you will die, and the true soul of the primordial phoenix will be mine as well. No one can change that. Zun Wang said indifferently. It was as if he did not put Long Fei in his eyes at all. And Long Fei, in that instant, also understood. From the beginning to the end, it was not that Zunzhou did not know about Phoenix Realm's actions. He just let it go. The mantis stalks the cicada, and the yellow sparrow follows. And he was this yellow sparrow. For a moment, even Long Fei felt a chill in her heart. He had never thought that all of this would be accomplished under the control of the king. However, there was no way to make Long Fei accept his fate. You came at the right time. I was thinking to kill this phoenix and go straight to the supreme realm to kill you. I never would have thought that you would directly deliver yourself to my doorstep. If I kill you, I want to see who in this 10,000 worlds can stop my iron fists. Long Fei said, the battle intent in his eyes reignited, wreaking havoc in the void. Ha ha ha, kill me. Just with trash like you? I don't think so. That is what the phoenix said just now. So now he's dead. Long Fei said before her gaze turned towards Xian Tian. Immediately, killing intent exploded forth. As expected, you really look like a good dog. How is it? Are you happy licking it? Long Fei ridiculed. Xian Tian's expression stiffened. His stiff face became incomparably dark. Long Fei, your death is at hand. Still trying to act cool in front of me? My lord, the reason you have come this time is for your harvest. Do you think you have even the slightest chance of survival in front of an adult? Impossible. So what if you're strong? The final result will not change. Then it means that you have died, and this emperor is still alive. Ha! Xian Tian laughed like a madman. Long Fei squinted her eyes, and his body shook. The power of creation swept through his entire body. Then a fist suddenly punched out. Instantly, Xian Tian's expression changed. Previously, he could still maintain a stalemate in front of Long Fei, and relied on the refined power of the Qilin to resist by 1 or 2 times. But now, the strength of Long Fei's body had undergone a qualitative change. With a single punch, Xian Tian felt an intense pain in his heart and soul. No, master, save me. Mystic heaven roar. His body continuously exploded backwards. However, no matter how fast he was not faster than Long Fei's fist. But at this moment, the great sage made his move. He calmly struck out with his palm. However, this palm strike caused the entire space to change. From being silent to rumbling, it only took the span of a breath to complete. And Long Fei's fist was also gradually exterminated under this power. Real Face said that since I have come today, everything will end here. No one can stop Real Face. Your life is mine, and so is Yuan Feng's true soul. Die. Zun Wang lightly spoke, and a bright light flashed in his calm eyes before he once again slapped his palm onto the ground. Boom! Long Fei immediately threw a punch. But now, under the fire, there was no suppression at all. His fist was unable to withstand the palm strike of the Emperor. In the blink of an eye, Long Fei's figure immediately flew out and landed heavily on the ground. Puff! Puff puff! Long Fei got up with much difficulty. She could only feel that his internal organs were all dislocated from their initial positions in the clash this time, as streams of blood shot out from her mouth. Your body is also at the creation stage? Long Fei asked. It was all filled with disbelief. He had thought that the state of Zhou was powerful, but had never imagined that it would be powerful to such an extent. Creation? Trash. Since your death is at hand, Real Face will tell you. This sort of power, this is the power of a chief sovereign. This is because the Real Face is the master of civilization. The sky was filled with nothingness, and the stars were like an ocean. The sky was filled with nothingness, and the stars were like an ocean. It was like the number of sand in the eternal river. There were simply too many to count. However, the fact that this place dared to be named after the sea was a testament to its mysteriousness. Wang Yun and Jiang Chunqiu were stunned. They immediately opened their mouths and said, "My lord, this won't do. This stellar sea is too dangerous. We absolutely cannot enter it." Wang Yun was filled with determination. "That's right, my lord. Just now, this old servant only said it was because of a private message. I absolutely cannot go." Jiang Chunqiu also spoke up, remorse and self-blame written all over his face. But the more the two of them spoke, the more Long Fei anticipated the scene in her heart. Especially that feeling of impulse that he didn't even need to feel. It made Long Fei's heart itch unbearably. He wished that he was already in the sea of stars. There's no need to talk about it. No matter what kind of existence the stellar sea is, they still have to go there. Long Fei was resolute and decisive, her eyes filled with boundless longing. Regarding the feelings in his heart, he naturally could not tell them. Even he himself couldn't figure out where that inexplicable impulse had come from. However, a voice kept telling him that he had to go. Hearing this, Wang Yun and Jiang Chunqiu's faces darkened even more. But Long Fei had made the decision. How could they dare to disobey? Wang Yun glared furiously at Jiang Chunqiu as he reprimanded her. Jiang Chunqiu also had a helpless look on his face. Long Fei also fell into silence, his eyes incomparably gloomy. At the same time, in his line of sight, the firelight from the three types of fire blended together and soared into the sky. The flames burned, directly burning into the shape of a phoenix. It was incomparably dazzling. The entire sky began to change as the flames burned. The boundless aura of annihilation suddenly dissipated. So. The phoenix, who was burning with goods, spat out flames from its mouth. Wherever the flames passed by, the Phoenix Valley, who had long since become ruins, would miraculously begin to recover. All living beings had actually evolved once more. Holy shit, the entire Phoenix Valley has gone nirvana. Long Fei said in shock. Shocked. The scene before him had already surpassed what he could comprehend. Not all. He had thought that Jojo's position would definitely not be small. However, he never would have thought that an existence that had already been annihilated could be reborn. For a moment, Long Fei's mind was immersed in it. As for Wang Yun and Jiang Chunqiu, they were dumbfounded by what they saw. Why does this feel like he's even more amazing than the Phoenix ancestor? Master, did something happen? Jiang Chunqiu asked. This sound was too loud. They had witnessed the Phoenix's rebirth time and time again, completed without any warning at all. But now, the entire world seemed to change color. As the flames burned, a series of incredible things happened. That's right, my lord. This disturbance is too big. There shouldn't be any unforeseen events occurring, right? Wang Yin added. But Long Fei maintained her composure. How could his woman be ordinary? Furthermore, Jojo's phoenix blood vein wasn't born. It was the system. Therefore, it gave Jojo unlimited possibilities. And the situation in front of him, though it was shocking to Long Fei. But it wasn't unacceptable. Don't worry, I know my woman, Long Fei said. Long Fei's gaze was extremely resolute. Now he was only waiting for Jojo's return. At the same time, the flames in the void became more and more intense. It was filled with a sacred and ritual feeling. As for the area enveloped by the fiery light, all of it radiated with an infinite amount of vitality. Even Long Fei and the other two could feel an indescribable feeling from her body under the enveloping fire. Extremely comfortable, Long Fei was still all right. After all, the power of his physical body was too strong, and the effect it had on him was minuscule. But Wang Yin and Wang Yin were already immersed within. Even his injuries began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye under this force. This change caused Long Fei's eyes to narrow. A bright light flashed. Soon, I can feel that you're coming back. Long Fei's voice trembled. Xiao Yan's eyes stared intently at the phoenix within the Nirvana stage. He was extremely excited. It was as if Long Fei could tell from every change in the flames that it was Jojo's appearance. His heart was filled with incomparable anticipation. At this time, the flames in the air suddenly stopped. Time seemed to stop at this moment. It was incomparably quiet. Long Fei could even hear her own heartbeat. Nice! Suddenly, a phoenix cry resounded through the world. Soon after, a phoenix soared into the sky. At the same time, the entire Phoenix Valley reappeared on the human world. Nirvana flame emerged. Not just that. While Jojo was undergoing Nirvana flame rebirth, her Nirvana flame had also evolved and turned into a phoenix once again. And these phoenixes were incomparably pure, giving off an extremely sacred feeling. What was even more peculiar was that these phoenixes did not have any relation to the Phoenix Valley that they used to be. Whether it was the aura or the cultivation base, they had nothing to do with each other. It could be said that these phoenixes were all born from Jojo's rebirth. Imperceptibly, it confirmed what Long Fei had said before. Then he would die. In this world, there was only one phoenix. Currently, Jojo had undergone nirvanic rebirth and given birth to a phoenix, thus becoming a master of the phoenix. Thinking of this, Long Fei became even more pleased. He was a dragon, and a supreme being at that. Not only did he control the dragons of the heavens, he was absolutely comparable to Long Batian back then. But now, Jojo had become the supreme being of the phoenix. The two of them were simply a perfect match. It was also at this time that, because of Jojo's rebirth, a phoenix emerged from the Phoenix Valley and soared through the skies, causing the entire sky to become a holy land. Long Fei's figure also instantly rose into the air, flying straight towards Jojo. At this time, Jojo, who was moving about in the void, seemed to have sensed something and immediately stopped. When he saw Long Fei's figure, he let out a sorrowful cry and descended towards Long Fei. Long Fei, big brother. Jojo sobbed silently, as all her thoughts and worries exploded at this moment. Long Fei didn't say a word. The only way was to hug Jojo in her arms. This time, my husband will definitely not let you leave me. Even if you overturn 10,000 realms, I will absolutely not let any more accident happen to you, Long Fei said with a resolute expression. Amen. Jojo also doesn't want to leave big brother Long Fei. Tears streamed down Jojo's face as she snuggled close to Long Fei's side. And at this moment, the endless phoenix started to cheer and soar in the sky, protecting Long Fei and her figure within it. As for Long Fei, the idea moved, and a drop of blood shot out from her fingertip. Boom, boom, boom. In the blink of an eye, the blood split apart as more and more huge dragons appeared in the sky. They danced together with the phoenixes as they circled in the air. The image was like a frame, engraved with eternal beauty. Domineering and arrogant. Domineering and arrogant. When that true, invincible attitude descended, it was as if in front of him there were no top 10 elders of the mountain and sea sect, but rather some random passers-by who could be destroyed at will. In the air, Long Fei was also holding back the impulse to attack. It was incomparably shocking. Mother asterisk her. He oppressed the mountain and sea elders like a dog? Does it have to be so violent? With this kind of strength, who else could possibly stop him? Long Fei thought. The moment he made his move, Long Fei had already seen through it. Terrifying strength. They were far, far beyond the top 10 elders of the mountain and sea sect. They were not on the same level. If the 10 elders of the mountain sea sect were compared to a rider on a motorbike, then the heavy immortal would just be driving a tank. There was simply no way to compare them. Even Long Fei secretly compared this in her heart. With his current cultivation, even if he had to use all his firepower, it would be useless against a grand immortal. Unless he could still use the third blade of the god of boundary. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to face him head-on. What Long Fei did not expect was that the development of the situation was rather big. He had never thought that it would have developed to such an extent. Originally, they only wanted to kill Tang Ligan, but they didn't manage to do it. Now even the big shots from all sides had appeared. And at this time, following the appearance of the heavy immortal, the atmosphere also became strange. The expressions of the 10 elders changed completely. Even though they were clamoring in anger, when facing the real heavy immortal general, they instantly lost their temper. That was because Yang Ri was the strongest amongst them, but he died just like that. He couldn't even block a single blow from the Grand Immortal. General, what are you trying to do? You should know that this is all your son's doing. What? All those years ago, you turned the tides and blocked the power of the devil since mystery to protect the mountain and sea sect. Are you going to destroy it now? Yang Zhao roared in rage. His expression was incomparably ugly. At this moment, he was being forced back by the heavy immortal and was a little embarrassed. No matter what, he was one of the 10 great elders. Why would he be humiliated like this? That's right, he's an immortal. Don't forget that this is the mountain and sea sect. If it weren't for the fact that you served the mountain and sea sect all those years ago, how could you have allowed this bastard to do something like this? He would never have refused anything he did. Jiang Zhong, I'll give you face today. Let's just forget about this matter. How about it? Wang Yudong also said. Now, he was afraid in his heart. It was impossible for them to even touch the strength of a heavy immortal. A single glance was enough to tell him that this was a leopard. To be able to force back a man with a casual move, it would be the same if he used it on them. Thus, right now, he wanted to retreat and let the matter rest. Unfortunately, they were thinking too much, only to see a faint smile appearing on the corners of Jiang Zhong's mouth as he calmly replied, "Forget it. Didn't you get up early to look in the mirror? She looks so ugly, so beautiful." He spoke word by word. In that moment, his face darkened, turning ashen. In this world where only martial arts mattered, there had never been anyone who cared about appearances. Therefore, over the years, no one had ever dared to joke about his appearance. A grand general. His voice was like the grinding of pig iron, cold and detached. No need to look so bitter and vengeful. Laozi is right here. If you want to fight, just come up. The grand immortal Jiang said calmly. However, his words caused Wang Yudong to awaken. Make a move? How is this possible? Even Yang Li was defeated in one move. Why did he have to make a move? Moreover, the attack he used to kill a heavy immortal was simply a casual action. Such strength was displayed right here. If the Grand Immortals were truly enraged, let alone fighting, they wouldn't even have the courage to speak out. He's a great immortal. Why must he do this? It's not a big deal. We're all members of the Mountain and Sea sect. Honor and disgrace go hand in hand. To harm our relationship over such a small matter, it's not worth it. Right, in my opinion, let's just forget about it. All the elders spoke out. The Grand Immortals remained silent. They didn't have any intention of giving up at all. It was also at this time that the white deer took a step forward. Forget it. Since things have come to this point, let's just forget it. And forget it? Impossible. Forget it if you want to. However, we must die. The white deer spoke coldly. He didn't know why Long Fei had to kill Tang Ligon. But since it was Long Fei who wanted to kill him, then this person definitely had a reason to die. Since he had already recognized Long Fei as his boss, then Tang Ligon was someone who must die. In an instant, Tang Ligon's face turned ashen. Staring at the white deer, he could not understand why it had to kill him. No, I can't accept this, little Gongzi. I've never offended you before. Why must you kill me? I'll follow your lead from now on. Don't kill me, okay? Right? Don't you still lack a little beast tamer? I'll be your boy. The white deer spoke crazily. He didn't want to die. He didn't want to die at all. At this moment, what core disciples, what people advanced to, were no longer important. In the face of life and death, all divine horses were like floating clouds. And at this time, Long Fei, who was in the air, had a thought. Even if you die, I'll make sure you die to let you understand. With that thought, Long Fei's figure moved and directly descended from the sky. In a single step, she arrived in front of Tang Ligon. Tang Ligon's face was filled with terror. Then he seemed to have thought of something. However, before he could finish his words, he felt a great pressure pressing down on him. His hands struggled desperately, but to no avail. He could not say a single word. One must know that since Long Fei had already appeared, she was definitely well prepared. Can you wait for him to continue speaking? Impossible. Following that, Long Fei did not wait for everyone to react and directly moved. She grabbed Tang Ligon's neck and exerted a bit of force. Ka! Ended. Roar. It was also at this time that the established horse roared and came to stand in front of Long Fei. Stop messing around. There are so many people, Long Fei casually said. And then to the white deer, little Gongzi, this kid is already dead. Otherwise, is this matter really over? Long Fei asked. His goal was the path to immortality. Now that Tang Ligon was dead, no one in the mountain and sea sect knew about him, and they could proceed with their plans without worry. The white deer was startled. After hearing Long Fei's words, it instinctively nodded and said, Humph, since this kid is already dead, let's just forget about this matter. The white deer proudly raised its head. Yang Li and the others had faces full of hatred. 10 people appeared in succession in order to protect Tang Ligon. But now, they had never thought that they would be killed by someone they had never seen before. Even the Grand Immortals were frantically trying to stop him. And now he was killed by Long Fei? To them, this was an extraordinary shame and humiliation. With just a thought, Yang Li's gaze immediately locked on a Long Fei. Forget it, that's fine, but he must die. The king of Zhou looked down from above, standing in the heaven and earth. The king of Zhou looked down from above, standing in the heaven and earth. But in Long Fei's heart, this time, she was extremely shocked. This was the second time he had heard the word Lord of Civilization. Earlier in the history of the 10,000 worlds, Long Fei was clear that a civilization had appeared before the 10,000 worlds that already existed. The current 10,000 worlds was just the state of the universe that the victor replayed during the war between civilizations. As expected, at this moment, the Lord of Civilization that Zhao Zhou spoke of had already made an indication. The noble world was the victor of that year. Only in this way would he be qualified to become the master of a civilization. However, this was not the main point. The most important thing was that this power was almost supreme. It was flawless. The instant Long Fei's strength collided with this palm, it was instantly crushed. Without any surprise, it was instantly destroyed. How can he be this strong? Complete suppression. How the F*CK can he still fight? Long Fei could no longer remain calm. Even when facing Yuan Feng, he did not have such a feeling. It was a sense of powerlessness. It was as though the difference in levels was completely suppressed. For example, right now, it was completely berserk, using the strongest power from one's physical body. However, it was easily neutralized by Honorable Zhou. For a moment, Long Fei's mind was in a mess. No, this is definitely a superbug. Long Fei was extremely depressed in her heart. This level of strength had completely surpassed his current level. Even if he encountered many fortuitous encounters, he would still not be a match for them. Thinking about it, Long Fei frowned. At this point, it was impossible to give up. The elemental phoenix had to explode. Because at this time, JoJo was already at the stage of Nirvana Flame. If she did not have the power of the life-extinguishing flame, Nirvana Flame would have been defeated. No, we absolutely cannot wait any longer. Even if we are not able to take on the Emperor, we must first destroy the primordial phoenix. Only then can JoJo be reborn. Long Fei was extremely anxious. Facing the king, he felt helpless. The power of the king gave him endless pressure. It was also at this moment that Xian Tian's arrogant laughter rang out once again. Haha, there's no other way, right? This emperor has already said that you are trash in front of an adult. Even if you kill the phoenix ancestor, what can you do about defeating this phoenix, which is a civilization above your head? Everything was a waste, but it was all for the sake of the Lord. Xian Tian laughed. The fear and confusion on his face was replaced with complacency. A sharp light flashed across his eyes. He was extremely excited, as if Long Fei, this huge problem in his heart, would be killed in the next moment. Long Fei slightly raised her head, flames of fury burning in her heart. Xian Tian's words were like a sharp sword that descended from the skies. The anger in Long Fei's heart instantly exploded. How can a lick dog have the right to act so arrogantly in front of me? What do you think you are? Peerless, don't embarrass yourself. Back in the Emperor Xian, if she had known that she had become a dog after her death, she probably could have crawled out of the grave. It's a pity that you've been beaten to a pulp by me. Not to mention a grave, not even a grain of lust. Long Fei said. He directly went back to the sect. His eyes, however, kept drifting, looking for an opportunity to target Yuan Feng. It was at this moment, however, that Yuan Feng's figure began to change. It was as if the oil had dried up. It began to melt. The body formed from the life-extinguishing fire could no longer support itself and was about to break. In that instant, no matter if it was Long Fei or Ji Zun, they all felt a movement in their eyes. Ha! Yuan Feng, the #1 phoenix in history? TSK, TSK, a gift that I have bestowed to you, today will finally become the object of Real Face's eyes. Merge! With a wave of his hands, he took control of the life-extermination flame in his hands. At the same time, Yuan Feng's body also quickly dissipated. His entire face was filled with malevolence and distortion. 1 breath of time, 2 breaths of time. Time passed by quickly. However, before even 1 breath of time passed, Yuan Feng's aura grew weaker and weaker. In the blink of an eye, Yuan Feng. As for Long Fei, her heart tightened. Now is the time. Instantly, Long Fei raged. Regardless of whether he was an opponent or not, he had to make a move. If Yuan Feng died at the hands of the Emperor, he could not say whether he could take the kingdom. Even if it were to explode, it might not necessarily ignite a fire of annihilation. Therefore, there was simply no time for Long Fei to consider. The only thing Long Fei could do was fight. Boom, boom, boom. Long Fei quickly threw a punch. It was as if he knew nothing at all. 6 fists for 1. It covered the sky and covered the earth as it was unleashed with all its might. In the blink of an eye, the entire world was filled with the shadows of fists. Stealing food from the mouth of tiger? You overconfident dog. You dare to snatch my phoenix true soul? Scram! Master Zhou shouted. They simply did not place Long Fei in their eyes. Just as the fist shadows that filled the sky were about to approach him, he opened his eyes wide and shot out 2 beams of light. Boom! With that, an explosive sound was heard. The fist shadows that filled the sky immediately vanished without a trace. It was pierced through with a single glance. He dares to act cool in front of the real face with just this little bit of cultivation experience. The Lord of Civilization represents invincibility and dominance. As long as you are a living being of this civilization, even if you are a dragon, you have to give up your position for the real face. Honorable Zhou said arrogantly. His eyes were filled with contempt. However, at this time, Xin Tian's voice suddenly appeared. Lord, there's a trick! Xin Tian cried out in alarm. At this moment, the emperor also reacted and withdrew his gaze. The next moment, he was infuriated. That was because in the instant he attacked earlier, the primordial phoenix physique that was currently being refined in his hand had actually disappeared. Moreover, the one who acted was none other than Long Fei. This was Long Fei's plan. Since he was clear that he was not a match for Jizun, then the moment he made his move, Long Fei's goal was to confuse the entire world. He had diverted the attention of the king, and he himself had targeted Yuan Feng. Ha ha ha, you're awesome. No matter how amazing you are, you're still the same. You have to drink this daddy's foot washing water. Even if I'm not your opponent, so what? This thing doesn't belong to you in front of your father. Long Fei laughed loudly. Without waiting for the ruler to react, he brought the Yuan Feng's body and instantly returned to the cluster of flames. Damn it. However, do you think that you can avoid my technique just like that? Too naive. The old man's face was full of anger. His eyes were full of anger. Streams of killing intent burst out from his eyes. It was as if being played by Long Fei had angered his dignity. No pardon. As he said that, he directly took action, pressing down on Long Fei. Long Fei's eyes focused, and before her body could stop, she felt a pressure fall from the sky that could reach the sky. Crack! 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 In that moment, Long Fei felt her bones cracking. It seems as if it is about to shatter under this pressure. No! Long Fei attacked crazily without any hesitation. Long Fei attacked crazily without any hesitation. This was because the third slash only had one slash. Before the fourth slash was unsealed, it could only be used once. In other words, he only had one chance. Fortunately, this blade did not disappoint Long Fei. Full form reversal. Previously, in front of Zhao Zhou, his strength was like a child playing house. But now, he had used the reverse dragon slash. Even if it was a kingdom, it could only struggle. Boom! The lightning that filled the sky turned into sabers and sabers as they hacked down onto Zun Wang's body, as if they wanted to mince him into minced meat. You're dead meat. Do you think you have the real face in your sights? This is only a clone of the real face. If you dare make a move, the real face will guarantee to kill your entire clan. Honored Devil said angrily. At this moment, under the power of the reverse dragon slash, his entire body was covered in knife marks. The power in his body constantly dispersed. It was about to collapse. Long Fei's eyes were still cold and detached. However, there was a storm raging in his heart. Clone. It's actually just a clone? For a moment, Long Fei felt a headache. He had originally thought that this would be the final boss. As long as he could destroy it, he would be able to run amok through the entire Eternal River Plains. But who would have imagined that it was just a clone? The heck, is an avatar this powerful? What other logic is there? Can we still have fun? Long Fei was furious. However, his hands continued to move. There was no such thing as a threat. Even if it was a clone, Long Fei would not let it go. Destroy our clan? That would depend on whether you have the ability or not. Today, I will kill you. Next time, I will annihilate your real face. Long Fei said as he shook his head. He wasn't afraid at all. Making him admit defeat? Impossible. This was especially true for this ancient kingdom. It had almost taken his life and severed Jojo's chance to reincarnate. Now, he wanted to use just a few words to make Long Fei let go. Impossible. In Long Fei's dictionary, there was no fear. If he had to be afraid of everything, Long Fei would not have such a day. When he thought of this, Long Fei's eyes grew serious, and all the worries he had behind him disappeared. Even the dejection he had felt earlier vanished instantly. Who cares if I am a F*** clone or not? No one could block my path. Dying. With a heavy shout, Long Fei advanced with all her might. In a single step, she grabbed the god of boundaries' blade and directly arrived next to Jizun, who was submerged in lightning. And with the arrival of Long Fei, the entire dragon became even more violent in the blink of an eye. An even more violent energy exploded forth, sealing off the body of the evil expert. The reverse scale immediately peeled off, transforming into a growth blade, followed by Long Fei's movement as it landed heavily. "No!" the archbishop roared, eyes wide with fury. However, it was all in vain. The power of the reverse dragon slash was a cultivation technique released by the system, especially this blade strike. The power of lightning had come from the void and was not related to this region of the world in the slightest. Even the power of a king could not break free. He was completely restrained. In the blink of an eye, 7 sabers formed from reverse scales struck Zun Huang's body. One cut, and the god of boundary in Long Fei's hand, at this moment, fell, directly chopping down on Ji Zun's head with a single slash. Immediately, the entire world fell into silence. All sound vanished. It seemed as if even space and time had stopped. The only thing that existed was this everlasting slash of Long Fei's. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for slaying the king's clone. Obtain 50 billion experience points, 5 billion holy source S, and 1 striking value point. The system's voice came to an abrupt end. As for Long Fei, her eyes suddenly widened. As if it was unbelievable, his mind was immersed in the system. System, are you playing with me? Well, let's say you were very helpful just now. But you can't just ignore my experience, can you? Such a strong boss, yet you're giving me experience? This is too much. Long Fei's face was full of anger and hatred. It was completely illogical, even if it was just a clone. But he was too powerful, after all. At this level, if not for the successful activation of the 3rd slash of the God of Boundaries blade, it would have been absolutely impossible to turn the tide. Therefore, for the system to be so harsh on it, and only give out experience, Long Fei felt extremely unhappy in her heart. However, the system did not react at all. There was no response at all. Berserk, Long Fei said bitterly. As for the system, there was nothing that could be done. After all, no matter how powerful the capital was, it was still just a clone. It was impossible for it to explode. But, with just this bit of experience, Long Fei was truly not in a good mood. He could only turn on Berserk with the mindset of hugging a dead horse and treating it as if it were alive. To Long Fei's surprise, the system's voice appeared again. Ding! Congratulations, player, for obtaining Civilization Brand. Ding! Congratulations, player, for obtaining Civilization Brand. Ding! Congratulations, player, on defeating Super Strong Boss. Obtain System's Special Reward. Luck Aura. The system's voice rang out. After going berserk, there were 2 things added to the system dimension. Although it was only 2, Long Fei's eyes were blazing with passion. It was locked directly onto the system's stun spell, Civilization Brand. After being refined, it will break free from the constraints of civilization and not be restricted by it. Luck Aura. Player can specify any item, one-time use item. The moment Long Fei saw this second spell, she could no longer remain calm. Ha ha! The mark of civilization. Honorable Zhou, aren't you awesome? Isn't it just because you are the ruler of this civilization? Once I refine this power, your civilized power will no longer be able to suppress me. When that time comes, I want to see just how you will continue acting cool. Long Fei was extremely excited. It felt great. Previously, when he was suppressed by the venerable king, he didn't have the slightest ability to resist, causing Long Fei's heart to feel like it was about to collapse. Now, with this brand of civilization, it was as if the power of the kingdom had been completely disintegrated. Not enough to be afraid of. At the very least, it would be impossible for Senior Zhou to rely on his identity as the master of civilization and the power of myriad realms to suppress Long Fei. All that was left was hard. But to Long Fei, who would be afraid of a head-on clash? As for the luck aura, to Long Fei, it was even more moving. In the past, lucky value was also a key factor for Long Fei to increase her explosive rate. The only difference was that this luck aura could be specified at will. In an instant, Long Fei's gaze landed on the flames Jojo had transformed into. Damn it, I almost forgot about you. Dragon soaring through the 9 heavens. Chop for me. Long Fei bellowed, and immediately made her move. The second blade of the god of boundary slashed out. In an instant, Yuan Feng, who was already half dead from the torture of Master Zhou, didn't even have time to struggle before she was slashed to death by Long Fei's blade. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Yuan Feng. You have obtained 30 billion experience, 3 billion holy source S, and 1 striking value. Ding! Congratulations player on obtaining Extinction Fire. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining a Phoenix True Soul. Ding! Congratulations to player on obtaining Nirvana Phoenix Tail. The system's voice rang out again and again. Long Fei's eyes also instantly lit up, because this wave could be said to be a huge explosion. Honorable Realm within the shrine. Honorable Realm within the shrine. Boom! Suddenly, in the center of the shrine, a heaven-shattering killing intent burst forth. Ryuyuan Blow. Infinite slaughter. Outside the shrine, the countless of birds and beasts all exploded under this killing intent. Countless people from the noble world were trembling in fear as well. Is the Lord angry? I really don't know what kind of thing it is that doesn't know death. It actually dares to touch the earth at the age of 3. If Lord Zhou Gonggong gets angry, the entire myriad realms will tremble. Just you wait. This time, my lord will surely massacre my world. I just don't know who will become such a fool. The people from the revered realms discussed amongst themselves. His face was filled with fear and excitement. Fear was fear that the wrath of the king would burn on their bodies. Excited, however, was because of the bloody slaughter, which caused their hearts to surge. It was also at this moment that 12 figures suddenly swept over from the horizon. Instantly, the eyes of those from the transcendent powers blazed with fervor. It's the 12 ambassadors. It seems like Lord Zhou is serious. Rumor has it that the 12 war envoys are supreme killing machines that can conquer the starry sky. I heard that you were sent out on a secret mission before, and now that you're back, I'm afraid there's going to be a war. It can't be wrong. Although I do not know what the Lord Envoy did, he must have reshuffled his cards and returned to the 10,000 worlds. As the people of the noble world spoke, they became increasingly excited. Their eyes were all filled with the desire to fight. It was also at this time that an angry voice was transmitted from the shrine. From today onwards, prepare for war from all over the myriad realms and attack the Dragon Hall together. The war for God of Boundary would proceed accordingly. Under the 9 heavens and 10 earth, under the rule of 10,000 realms, they would arrive outside the Dragon Court within 7 days. After destroying the Dragon Court, in terms of rewards, you will be re-ranked as one of the 10,000 worlds. It was a repudiation. The voice of the Emperor echoed, carrying with it an inexhaustible pressure. This time, they had used a special method to spread their name throughout the entire world. Even Long Fei, who was currently in Phoenix Valley, could hear this order. At this time, within the Phoenix Valley, Long Fei had just finished organizing her gains and was fusing the life-extinguishing flame into Jojo's Nirvana flame. As he was waiting, he was awakened by the order to attack. The heck? This is pushing lousy, Long Fei cursed. He didn't expect that the Emperor would be so decisive. Just a moment ago, his clone had been chopped into 2. Now, he was actually using the power of 10,000 worlds to attack the Dragon Court. However, this day will come sooner or later. This is a test of the Dragon Court. But at the same time, it is a reshuffle of the myriad worlds. 7 days. Long Fei pondered in her heart, and her eyes suddenly focused as she looked at the empty space in front of him. Then let's see how many people can resist my attack in the span of 7 days. He spoke coldly. Long Fei's gaze turned and looked at Wang Yun and Jiang Chunxiu. Is there a path within this river of stars' myriad worlds that is a path that all 10,000 worlds must pass through? Long Fei asked. The moment Long Fei opened her mouth, Wang Yun's and Jiang Chuanqiu's expression immediately changed. Needless to say more, they already understood Long Fei's thoughts. They had also heard the order from Honorable Zhou. This was because the king controlled the 9 heavens and 10 earth, and they were also part of the 10 great territories. If Long Fei hadn't already taken control of their world, he would probably have had to obey the orders of Senior Zhou. In other words, 9 heavens and 10 earth. Under the order of the emperor, no one could avoid this. He had to obey the will of the king and head for the Dragon Court. It was not surprising for Long Fei to ask something like this. It was a sniper attack. Sir, there are definitely places like this one. It's just that this place is way too dangerous, Jiang Chunqiu said. However, before Jiang Chunqiu could finish speaking, Wang Yun's expression turned incomparably ugly as he said directly, "No, that place is too mysterious. It's already been a forbidden zone for thousands of years, and no one is going to bother us. Also, even if it's someone from the 10,000 worlds, they wouldn't go overboard and would most likely choose to go around it. Therefore, this place is not suitable," Wang Yun said, his eyes flickering with fear. As for Long Fei, she was also stunned. One had to know that between Wang Yun and Jiang Chuanqiu, one was berserk while the other was deep. Now, it was actually Wang Yun who had displayed such fear, which confused Long Fei. When Wang Yun saw Long Fei's expression, he took a deep breath and said, "My lord, old Jiang should be talking about the Stellar Sea." Indeed, the Stellar Sea is a stronghold of the Milky Way. However, this place was too unorthodox. It had been a taboo for tens of thousands of years. No flying machine or living creature can cross over it. It's impossible for people from the 10,000 worlds to dare to cross over here, Wang Yun said. It was abnormally firm. It was as though this sea of stars was a land of death. If they went there, they would die. Is there really such a strange place in the center of the universe? Is it even more dangerous than the forbidden grounds that exist in the 9 heavens and 10 hells? Long Fei asked. For some reason, the moment Long Fei heard the word sea of stars, he actually felt her heart palpitate. It was as if they were familiar with each other, as they felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity with this place. Lord, there's no way to compare this. The mysterious existences of the 9 heavens and 10 earth have existed since the ancient times, and no one has ever probed them. Because no one dares to go, it is called a taboo. No one knows of such dangers. But the Stellar Sea is different. Wang Yun spoke again as he turned his gaze on a Jiang Chuanqiu. This point is more suitable for old Jiang, Wang Yun said as he handed over the initiative to Jiang Chuanqiu. At this moment, Jiang Chuanqiu's face was also filled with deep thought. With a thump, he directly knelt in front of Long Fei. "My lord, this old servant deserves to die. We really can't go to this place. Even if Sire is extremely powerful and is able to suppress the heavens, if you were to come to this place, you will not have much luck either," Jiang Chunqiu said painfully with a regretful expression. "What's going on?" Long Fei's eyes darkened as she asked. "My lord, do you still remember this old servant once said that the reason the great Yang world was able to establish itself in the center of the 10,000 worlds was because a goddess once walked out of the great Yang world?" Jiang Chunqiu said as he looked at Long Fei, his face full of self-blame. Long Fei's eyes focused, and a figure flashed past his mind. "I know. Could she be related to the Stellar Sea?" Long Fei asked. Jiang Chunqiu sighed as his expression became incomparably solemn. "It's not about that. It's that back then, my divine lady of the realm suppressed the god of boundary of the heavens and fought an undefeatable battle with the great master. However, it was designed to use entering the Sea of Stars as a bargaining chip to exchange for the great Yang world having a place in 10,000 realms. That's why the old servant dared to say this. Please spare my life, my lord." Jiang Chunqiu kept on kowtowing as he spoke. Long Fei fell silent. The war elder could not be defeated? To Long Fei, these 4 words were extremely touching. Especially after Jiang Chuanxiu finished his speech, Long Fei felt a strange urge to enter the Sea of Stars. All right, it's settled then. As long as we can wipe out all 10,000 worlds. So what if we have a Sea of Stars? I'll go and settle it. Dragon Court. Dragon Court. Countless stars twinkled and thunder roared. While the lightning was roaring, a child who was less than a meter tall was holding onto a 10 feet tall big yellow dog as they walked. Ahead of him, there were many extremely strange-looking demon beasts. Big Yellow, grab it for me. This is your dinner. The little figure stopped in his tracks and gave the order. However, his tender voice was filled with an unyielding will. Big Yellow was surprised for a second. His eyes were filled with unwillingness. He roared, "Oh, you don't accept this? This young noble is going to make you swallow these beasts alive." Unconvinced, "It's easy." As the little figure spoke, a trace of evil flashed across his bright eyes. Immediately, the aura on his body changed, filled with a sense of evil. Immediately, the spiritual light in his hand moved, and a ripple was emitted. At this time, a bell on Big Yellow's neck suddenly rang. Then, with a loud bang, it started to enlarge one by one. He dragged Big Yellow's body down to the ground. In an instant, Big Yellow was scared out of his wits. Woof woof, woof woof woof, woof woof woof. The screams were extremely mournful, and his eyes were filled with a strong sense of unwillingness and grievance. What a coward. No one can last a minute at a time," the little figure said indifferently. Suddenly, another figure walked out from the dragon court in the distance. "Little guy, are you torturing Big Yellow again?" The voice was filled with love. Incomparable doting. Grandpa Hong, you don't know, this bastard is too disobedient. If I don't train every day, maybe one day I will bite back at you," the little figure said. Indeed, it was Hong Yi, and this tiny figure was none other than little Invincible. Invincible, the void has been unstable lately. It's best not to leave the Dragon Court's territory. After pondering for a moment, Hong Yi said. His eyes were full of seriousness. This was because he had also heard the furious voice of Zunzhou. "Don't worry, your dad's methods are overflowing. The formation that he set up definitely isn't something that an ordinary person can enter. Those that are here have said that I now have control over the rules of the Star Demon, and I also have 6 arts. When the time comes, I will kill whoever comes." Little Unrivaled said. He looked indifferent. In fact, there was a hint of pride in his eyes when he talked about the power he had. It was as if the power he controlled was already invincible, and he wasn't afraid of anyone. Ha, good boy. Sure enough, a tiger father doesn't have a dog son. Your father is crazy, and you are even more crazy than your father. However, this time, I feel that the Venerable One is serious. Although there are a lot of useless things, there should be experts among the people who have come. Right now, Yuan Ba and the rest are still in closed-door cultivation, and your father is not around. Hong Yi said. Little Unrivaled Super Hottie was stunned. Then, he seemed to have thought of something and nodded his head heavily. And at this time, at a place far away from them, under the starry sky, Long Fei and Jojo had once again regained their calm. The dragon and the phoenix and the cry, the heavens celebrate together. It had already made Jojo extremely satisfied. Unprecedented satisfaction. It was like a little woman nestling by Long Fei's side. "Big brother Long Fei, you said that you want to go to the Sea of Stars." Jojo asked. "That's right. Since Honorable Zhou wants to use the Myriad Worlds cultivation method on my Dragon Court, then I will let him become the commander-in-chief." Long Fei said. However, in the historical records of the Phoenix Realm, I have occasionally seen a scene. Even if the Phoenix already existed in the last civilization, it still wouldn't dare to provoke the Sea of Stars. It seems that there is something in it that is unclear. Jojo looked worried. He said, that look was very pitiful. She did not want Long Fei to take any risk at all. And at this moment, Long Fei's expression changed. He knew the dangers of the Sea of Stars. However, He had never thought that the history of the Stellar Sea could actually be traced back to the previous civilization. Moreover, even the Phoenix clan did not dare to offend them. Is it that dangerous? Long Fei became heavy. In his heart, he was even more uncertain. He was even more unsure as to why he felt such an indescribable sense of urgency in his heart. He urged himself to go. It was as if there was something of utmost importance to him. Right, that is a forbidden area for life. It seemed to contain some kind of unknown information. As long as they were contaminated, they would never be able to come out alive. Jojo said, grabbing on a Long Fei's hand even more forcefully. Hearing that, Long Fei's expression became even heavier. He was considering whether to continue. However, just as this thought appeared, an extremely terrifying emotion inexplicably appeared in Long Fei's mind. It was just like how he would regret it for the rest of his life if he didn't go. It was extremely uncomfortable. Even if Long Fei's physical body had now become unrivaled in this world, she could still feel the heart-wrenching pain. No, I feel that there is something extremely important to me within the sea of stars. This time I must go. Long Fei endured the pain and asked. In an instant, Jojo also started to panic. How can this be? Could it be that there is something in this sea of stars that is related to Big Brother Long Fei? Jojo immediately said, I don't know, but I feel that after traversing the sea of stars, all the secrets of this myriad realms will be revealed. Long Fei's eyes fixed as she said seriously. They thought that the myriad realms was just for show. However, after experiencing so much, Long Fei also knew clearly. In all 10,000 worlds, the noble world is only the master of this civilization. And before that, there were even more mysteries. Long Batian, Yuan Feng, and even possibly the Qilin that appeared. These were the existences before this civilization. There is also the goddess of the great sun realm, as well as this bizarre and unpredictable sea of stars. Many of these existences were unknown. All of this could only be revealed through personal experience. Fine, since that's the case, I'll accompany you to the Stellar Sea. Jojo held Long Fei's right hand tightly and said firmly. Long Fei was startled and wanted to reject. However, when she thought about Jojo's current strength, which was not weak either, and the fact that she had reached the Nirvana realm, her aura could even be said to be close to that of Yuan Feng's. Moreover, he still had the Nirvana Phoenix ink and the Phoenix True Soul in his hands, which were all methods that he had prepared for Jojo. After refining it, he would be even stronger. With that thought, Long Fei nodded her head heavily. Fine, even if this sea of stars has an even bigger secret. I believe that when his husband and wife make a move, nothing will be a problem. With that, Long Fei pulled Jojo and immediately summoned him through the teleportation gate, preparing to lock onto the Stellar Sea. At this moment, Wang Yun and Jiang Chunqiu approached him. Lord, are we going to the Sea of Stars? Wang Yun asked. Even though there was fear in his eyes, at this moment, he was also suppressed by his desire to fight. Jiang Chunqiu's eyes were also filled with anticipation. After all, it was at that mysterious place that he had disappeared. He is indeed going to the Sea of Stars. But it's not us. It's us and me. Long Fei lifted Jojo's right hand, the corner of her mouth moved, and said indifferently. This was a single battle lust, capable of moving tens of thousands of worlds. This was a single battle lust, capable of moving tens of thousands of worlds. No one dared to disobey these words. In fact, they did not even have the qualifications to receive orders when the strongest realm of the 9 heavens was present. But now, to them, it was a special honor. So now they were in pain and joy. Being summoned directly by the Emperor, he was extremely excited, because now they finally had the qualifications to directly participate in the ranking competition for 10,000 realms and compete for the God of Boundary. However, compared to this, what shocked them even more was the name of the Dragon Court. It had only been a short time since the Dragon Court had been erected. They still remembered the words Long Fei had threatened to attack the myriad realms. Long Fei was too strong, She exterminated the star demon realm and created the dragon court. To them, this was no secret, and now it had angered the king and caused the entire world to go on a war. From this, it could be seen how terrifying the dragon court was. It's still not right. So what if we cross the Sea of Stars? Long Fei is so strong. What should we do? Yeah, he can easily destroy the 10,000 Beast World, the Star Demon Realm, and the Big Dipper Realm. If we go, what's the point of it? Therefore, we must now focus all of our power. Someone suggested. Their hearts were filled with fear, even though they had been living under the influence of the king for a long time. But Long Fei was a fierce reputation that had been forcefully brought forth. How could they dare underestimate him? With this said, it instantly won the approval of many people. You're right. Now, it seemed that crossing the Sea of Stars was secondary. In the worst case, we can take a detour around the border. If there's really an unknown situation, then with so many of us here, it's not a problem for some of us to die. The most important thing was what happened after crossing the Sea of Stars. Long Fei is too scary, killing people without blinking an eye. With a flip of her hand, she killed the god of boundary, like she was slaughtering dogs. That's right, although the Stellar Sea is terrifying, as long as we don't touch the Forbidden Zone and directly go around it, even if it's dangerous, only a few people would die. Our 10,000 worlds doesn't have much people, just many people. We can just pull out a few pawns and use them as cannon fodder. That's enough. Everyone has a point. In that case, the only thing we need to worry about is when we arrive at the Dragon Courtyard. We don't even know if the Dragon Courtyard is in the Dragon Courtyard or not. Countless God of Boundary, said again. His words were very accurate. Every single one of them felt that their analysis was correct. There were even some people who nodded and praised him, showing an enigmatic expression. It was also at this moment that someone stood up. Who cares if he's here or not? To deal with such a vassal, traitor, you will definitely send people to suppress him. We're just standing up and cheering. Do you really think that a single Long Fei can cause any waves? It doesn't exist. Someone said. The look in his eyes was one of utter contempt. If Long Fei was here, she would definitely recognize this person. This was the person Long Fei had given them a chance to choose to leave. Therefore, the stronger Long Fei was, the more discontent they felt in their hearts. As long as Long Fei did not die, they would be surrounded by fear. Therefore, now that they had been summoned to go to the Dragon Court, they naturally had to find ways to dispel the doubts in everyone's hearts. After that, his words were acknowledged by many people. You are right. The Venerable One has ruled the world unparalleled for all eternity. There is simply no need to take a single Long Fei to heart. This matter should not be delayed. There are only 3 days left. We should hurry up and set off. All right, I've already communicated with the people from the other realms. We're about to set off and advance at full speed. We'll be able to reach the Stellar Sea within 3 days. All of a sudden, many of the God of Boundary have been decided. However, in the end, it was still useless. With Long Fei here, no matter how meticulous their plans were, it would be unnecessary. At this time, above the Sea of Stars, Long Fei was already standing by the side of the Sea of Stars. He stood there unmoving. In addition, this stop lasted for 4 days. As though he had been petrified, his entire body was immersed in the process. As for Jojo, she had fallen into closed-door cultivation on the side. A profound aura spiraled around his body, and a phoenix that could be seen with the naked was spiraling above Jojo's spiritual altar. It was also at this time that Long Fei suddenly opened her eyes. We can't provoke him, or else something bad will happen. Long Fei said to herself. During these past few days, he had always been pondering about how he could arrange such a huge situation and pit the people of the 10,000 worlds to death. But Jojo's words made him not dare to act blindly without thinking. This was the Sea of Stars, and it was difficult for strangers to approach it. As long as he used his powers, he could trigger the violent rampage of the Stellar Sea, provoking all sorts of unknowns. Therefore, Long Fei was stuck in a dilemma. On one hand, he didn't want to worry Jojo, but on the other hand, A voice in his heart told him that this sea of stars wasn't as terrifying as he had imagined. He even had a deep connection with her. The two kinds of thinking were constantly tangled, making it difficult for Long Fei to make a decision. However, there was not much time left. He believed that by relying on the domineering might of the king, he would gain control over all the realms. Even if the people of 10,000 realms were even more afraid, they would cross the sea of stars within 7 days and then head towards the Dragon Court. But now, 5 days had already passed. In other words, it would take at most another day for the people of the 10,000 worlds to arrive. If they fought head-on, he would be beheaded with his own strength. Even if Long Fei were to ascend to the sky softly now, with her berserk cultivation, a single slash could cut a world, and a single punch could explode millions of times. However, it was still not enough. 9 days and 10 lands, 10,000 worlds. Putting aside the ones he had destroyed, there were still hundreds of thousands of other worlds. With such a large scale, even if he stood still for Long Fei to kill, he would still need a period of time. Long Fei did not want to let any of them go. Anyway, the war has broken out. He wanted to destroy the Dragon Court and force himself to do so. In that case, he might as well fight to the end. To eliminate all of the realms and not leave a single one of them was precisely Long Fei's way of returning the favor. If it was just a kill, then letting someone escape would be a type of defeat. Big brother Long Fei, what are you thinking? Suddenly, Jojo's voice sounded. He only saw that Jojo had already changed into a set of fiery red makeup, looking extremely bewitching. However, the feeling it gave others was that it was incredibly sacred, causing others to not dare to approach it. Long Fei silently turned around and looked at Jojo. Seems like you have succeeded in refining it. Right now, I can't even be sure about your cultivation anymore. But the feeling is even stronger than that of Yuan Feng from back then. Long Fei said. Surprise filled his eyes. Jojo laughed. Big brother Long Fei, Jojo can finally protect you this time. Jojo laughed charmingly and said indifferently. Then he softly asked, Big brother Long Fei, you still don't want to give up? Hearing that, Long Fei was startled. Looking at Jojo, she let out a bitter laugh. I want to try, Long Fei said with determination. And then she looked at the endless sea of stars. If you really cannot touch it, then I will take a look at this so-called unknown and see what exactly it is. Honorable realm within the shrine. Honorable realm within the shrine. The king had no desire to go into seclusion. His doppelganger was immediately killed by Long Fei, causing him to be enraged. His rage overflowed to the heavens. How many years has it been? Who would have thought that a nameless newbie would be able to kill a clone? If only I knew earlier, even if I did not want it with just my will, I would have killed that little bastard back in ancient world. The king said coldly. In front of him, a boundless color slowly gathered and formed into a human figure. I told you this a long time ago. Ancient world is not simple. You just wouldn't listen. All existences related to the ancient world must be annihilated. Otherwise, it might become a disaster. The figure spoke in an indifferent tone, his words carrying a wave of hatred. Song, isn't this a little alarmist? Could it be that the ancient world is really that powerful? The old man said, with a bit of disbelief in his silence. Of course, you still don't know too much about the ancient world's secret. Long Batian is a living example. Furthermore, I feel that following the eruption of the prehistoric secret world within the Phoenix Valley, the aura of Long Batian has also appeared within this universe. The man who is called Song sighed. Long Batian? Impossible. He is already dead, and her flesh has already been destroyed in the Ashura. How could she possibly have any tricks up her sleeve? The great sage was stunned, her tone rising by several stages. It was even more violent than when he heard Song had said that ancient world was not simple. There is nothing impossible in this world. Didn't this person also get killed by Long Fei long ago and reunited with you afterwards? If you can even do it, what can Long Batian not do? Song said. Hearing this, Zhaijiu's face turned extremely ugly. He opened his mouth to speak, but in the end he kept it shut. When this scene entered the eyes of Xian Tian, who was standing to the side, his heart began to stir in turmoil. If he didn't see it for himself, he would never have believed that the haughty and unparalleled old man would act so obediently in front of him. Song also sighed lightly at this time, after which his real body completely appeared. In a single step, he directly stepped onto the revered position in the center of the shrine. Forget it. Up until now, the chance to compete for the path of cultivation has already appeared. Some people, some things, should be born. As he spoke, his eyes turned to look at Xian Tian. Since you have already refined a strand of Qilin power, it is your lucky chance. I will send you to a place where you can use all the power you have. But you have to remember, you will always be a dog of your noble realm. Song said. Xian Tian was stunned for a moment before narrowing his eyes. It was as if he was being ignored by Song, causing him to feel extremely displeased in his heart. But suddenly, Xian Tian recalled the attitude he had towards Zhou, and the unwillingness in his eyes instantly vanished. Xian Tian will definitely live up to Sire's expectations if you bestow more kindness upon him. In addition, Xian Tian will naturally remember that I am a dog from the Supreme Realm. Xian Tian said with a sincere expression on his face. However, no one noticed the ruthlessness that flashed through Xian Tian's eyes. And this is for the best. Go! As Song said that, he waved his right hand and tore a part of the void apart, sending Xian Tian's figure inside. Then he turned around and looked at the king of the empire. I've already left the movie. Long Fei should be in the Star Ocean now. Song said. The great sage was stunned for a moment, and then a tinge of ridicule appeared in his eyes. Stellar Sea? This little bastard still wants to snipe people from 10,000 worlds? How reckless! Once he uses his power, the entire sea of stars will go berserk. When that happens, some existence will be provoked, and the person would be able to suppress him with a flip of his hand. Honorable Zhou said. After speaking, his eyes became even more hysterical, and madness surged in them. Song Yu also became silent at this moment. Not necessarily. This kid is not simple. Just by daring to come out and attack the 10,000 realms from the Sea of Stars, it's clear that he has an unparalleled will and will to be unrivaled in his heart. Even I feel ashamed of myself on this point. As for you, you're even worse off. After saying that, he stood up, moved his sleeve, and another void door opened up. Therefore, this time, I will personally take action. No matter what kind of trump card that kid has, I will still pry open the Sea of Stars. He directly annihilated this kid, with no chance of future troubles. As Tsong said this, his gaze froze, and his silhouette instantly disappeared. All that was left was the official position of the Emperor, with a gloomy expression on his face. Go on. No matter who it is, my destiny is mine in this life. With a cold harumph, the old ancestor also tore apart the void, his silhouette instantly vanishing into the void. At the same time, there was only one last day left in the 7 days. On this day, countless flying machines appeared. However, when they reached the edge of the stellar sea, they were immediately discarded. So. Millions of figures appeared and gathered together. This is the Sea of Stars? There's nothing special about it. It seems like this ancient legend might not be true. Scram, don't be stupid. Don't you know that once this astral sea feels the power, it will descend into oblivion? You want to die, but you don't want me to die? Shut up. Right from now on, who the hell is erupting with power? I will be the first to destroy him, the leader of the group said. They were all people with relatively high cultivations. Instantly, nothing was heard. For the sake of safety, we will now travel through the stellar sea in batches. Remember, no one is allowed to unleash his full strength. Immediately, someone said. Then he moved his hands. You and all of you. You 1,000 begin now. Instantly, those who were called out changed their expressions and started to back off a little. Nobody dared to be like Xiao Bai and become her experimental subject. However, they had no choice. If they were weaker than him in terms of strength, there was no way for them to retort. Helpless, the 1,000 people began to step forward. However, moments later, an earth-shattering burst of laughter directly sounded out. Ha ha ha, I'm fine. There's no response at all from this astral sea. Could it be that we've been tricked this whole time? In that case, after I destroy the Dragon Court, I will definitely enter the Stellar Sea to investigate. Maybe I will even get some lucky chances. You're right, we can't miss it. This 1,000 people laughed without restraint. He didn't care much about what the previous person said about not using any power. On the other side, when the remaining people saw that the 1,000 people had not changed at all, their minds started to move. In the blink of an eye, another tens of thousands of people flew out. The result was obvious. Nothing out of the ordinary had happened. Suddenly, no one could sit still anymore. Even the few powerful experts who had spoken out earlier started to madly channel their power, sweeping past the sea of stars. However, it was also at this moment. Suddenly, a rumbling sound could be heard from the sky above the sea of stars. It was like the sky had caved in and there was heavy pressure. Plop, plop, plop. In an instant, countless people with slightly weaker cultivations were unable to bear it and fell straight down, sinking into the sea of stars. Instantly, everyone's expression abruptly changed as they became incomparably flustered. However, just as everyone was at a loss and looking around, a figure appeared. Bastards of the all-world, you have finally arrived. Your father has been waiting for you for a long time. The dragon roared as it swallowed the heavens. The dragon roared as it swallowed the heavens. It was impossible to describe just how big the sea of stars was. However, the slash from the wild dragon's town directly covered the sky and the earth, enveloping the entire area. Instantly, the circle of people who were still conflicted on who they should use as cannon fodder became speechless. Arguing who's going to die? It was completely useless. In front of Long Fei, this kind of thinking was unnecessary. Long Fei had crippled such a large formation, yet she did not hesitate to anger the sea of stars, this legendary taboo that had existed since time immemorial, to snipe through this place. It doesn't exist. No, don't kill me. We are just little kids. There's no use in killing us. Still cannot avoid the fate of the Dragon Court. That's right. If you're so amazing, why bother trying to get closer to us? If you go back to the Dragon Court now, perhaps you might be able to stop us for a bit. The people of the 10,000 worlds frantically begged for mercy. He kept attacking his heart, wanting to use the safety of Dragon Court to distract Long Fei. But Long Fei did not care at all. He stood there without moving. No matter how much these people said, it was impossible for them to change their fates. With a thought, Long Fei lowered both her hands and moved the god of boundaries blade, after which the dragon descended from the skies. An incomparably powerful pressure descended directly. With a single breath, it swallowed all of these tens of thousands of people, leaving not even their bones remaining. Following that, Long Fei's gaze turned and looked into the distance. The smile on Long Fei's face grew colder and colder as she looked at the dense number of people from all over the world and the crowd of people from all over the place. His methods, of course, were not limited to just these. Now is the main show. Jojo, it's your turn. Long Fei's voice sunk. He wanted to kill all of the worlds. Naturally, it was impossible for him to act just by himself. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone through so much trouble and risked incurring the wrath of the unknown sea of stars by setting up this place. Furthermore, even if it was just a layout, Long Fei was extremely overbearing. The power that came up was the power to kill. Other than his own assassination, the most important thing was Jojo. And at this time, just as Long Fei's voice fell, the power of the dragon dissipated, and the boundless space above the entire sea of stars instantly became luscious. A wisp of flame instantly shot out. Immediately afterwards, the entire space was set ablaze. The fiery light shot into the sky, connecting with the endless sea of stars. Amidst the starlight, they were all interconnected and linked together. This scene instantly caused those who were currently fleeing to become stupefied. That was because the flame was burning. The sea of stars began to boil. Streams of heat shot up into the sky. It was as though at this moment he directly utilized the power of his astral sea. Has the sea of stars moved? Crazy, I can't change it. If the ancient taboo is broken, the entire world will not be at peace. We're all going to die. The people of the 10,000 worlds were panicking. Their faces were lifeless and filled with the will to die. To them, the stellar sea was a taboo that could not be touched. Now, the taboo had been broken. The world was about to appear. Of course, there were also people who didn't give up. They wanted to struggle free from this restriction of power, wanting to tear apart the void to escape. However, everything was in vain. Long Fei had long planned all of this, and they were right. Long Fei's arrangement was to use the entire sea of stars as the foundation. We'll unleash the phoenix fire of a nirvanic rebirth and burn the heavens. It could be said that Long Fei was burning the sea of stars. As for whether or not it would be touched, Long Fei did not know. However, this power was enough to confine the entire space within 1,000,000 miles of the sea of stars. The sky and the seas intersected, endless flames blazing within. It was all for the sake of building a cemetery for the people of 10,000 worlds. Trying to run? Impossible. Respectful Lord, the senior Miez disciple Long Ting, this father shall exterminate you. He thinks he's amazing, so I taught him a lesson and taught him a lesson. Long Fei said coldly. It was also at this time that the Phoenix Jojo had transformed into finally appeared. Nice! A phoenix cry pierced the sky. In the blink of an eye, the divine light of the phoenix scattered into the starry sky. Jojo's wings shook, and endless flames immediately dropped to the ground. Shwa shwa shwa. The violent impact was unstoppable. Before it fell down, the entire starry sky had already turned into a sea of fire. What kind of fire is this? No, I don't want to die. Endless screams of agony rang out. It was almost like his soul had been whipped. He was hysterical as he continued to wail. However, the voice disappeared in an instant. Under the bombardment of the power, he was reduced to nothing more than dust. Of course, this kind of large-scale massacre was naturally not something that could be removed in one go. Swish! Jojo's figure descended and came to Long Fei's side. Hubby, what should we do with these people? Jojo asked. When Long Fei took action, coupled with Jojo's phoenix flames, more than half of the people from the 10,000 realms have been killed after a single wave. Leave the rest to me. Today, none of them will be able to escape. A cold voice was heard. Long Fei stepped forward. Immediately after, the god of Boundary Blade appeared in her hand once again. With a sudden wave of his hand, Long Yu Tian. With a sound, 9 giant, glowing gold dragons appeared out of nowhere, and Long Fei's figure stood amongst the 9 dragons. On top of the biggest dragon head, she stood with her hands behind her back. He was like a true god who ruled over the heavens. And at this moment, the people of the all-world, it completely collapsed. The aura coming from Long Fei's body was too strong, and just the moment she made a move, it already made them feel like they were suffocating. It was as if his life was already at the bottom, incomparably depressing. Instantly, one by one, they bombarded the invisible barrier formed by the flames in a crazed manner. I want to get out. However, it was all too late. Just then, Long Fei controlled the 9 dragons and descended from the sky. Violent energy emanated from the colossal dragon's body. An extremely terrifying pressure exploded, and the confined space shattered with a loud bang. The eyes of the people from the 10,000 worlds were filled with joy. They had the instinct to survive, and they desperately rushed forward to attack. However, just as they were about to take a step forward, his entire being came to a halt, and then all of their eyes were filled with terror. Her face was pale, and her eyes were focused. after which his entire body silently exploded. Without leaving any trace, he collapsed. The blood moon had also descended from the skies. It was incomparably strange. In the sky, Long Fei was also stunned. Is Long Yu Jiu that fierce? Long Fei was in disbelief. Even if the god of boundary were weak, it was nothing in his eyes. But there were too many people here. Even he hadn't thought that he would be able to kill so many of them in one hit. But at this moment, Long Fei's heart suddenly jumped, and her gaze suddenly turned around. He was clad in white, appearing in a corner of the sea of stars, and was staring at him. There was even a faint smile on his face. Especially when he thought of that white-clothed figure's faint smile, which caused a peculiar feeling to arise in Long Fei's heart. Almost as if he was nervous, his heart was not at ease. Actually, before the civilization was born, the Sea of Stars was not called the Sea of Stars. It is called the Buried Heavens, Jojo said with a heavy face. And at this time, Long Fei was also incomparably shocked in her heart. Buried Heavens, the place where the heavens would bury him? Of course, Long Fei was even more clear in her heart that the heaven Jojo spoke of was not a heaven in the traditional sense. No matter how strong a person was, as long as they didn't transcend, they would always be restricted by some unknown force. It was the same for countless powerhouse, and it was the same for Long Batian back in the day. No matter how powerful you are, you'll still lose in the end. And this sky is a race or a person, or is it some kind of unknown power? It was enough to make the world revere. This kind of feeling was different from facing a powerful enemy. He had reached a whole new level. Just like when he was in ancient world, the Emperor Xian was awesome, the Xian nationality was awesome, so when it came to outsiders, they were the gods. However, compared to the 10,000 worlds, compared to the Master Zhou, they were nothing. And a noble world was the sky that was above all other realms. What about now? This sea of stars, even a phoenix race from before civilization was born, could it be that they wanted to call this world heaven? What kind of existence was this? What was even more terrifying was that such a mysterious existence actually had a connection with him. How could he let Long Fei feel at ease? For a moment, Long Fei was conflicted. If he had known earlier, he would have known that this stellar sea was so strange and mysterious. He would rather fight in the Dragon Court. Now, although he felt great, he had deceived and killed 10,000 worlds. But now, it led to something even more terrifying. No, we have to leave this place as soon as possible. The longer we delay, the higher the possibility of an accident. Long Fei said. He was not afraid. He had never feared any challenge in his life. But he would never allow Jojo to fall into danger again. But in front of his eyes, there was a mysterious feeling that he could not understand. He didn't dare take the risk. Jojo nodded heavily as well. Soon after, the two of them moved, ready to leave this place. But right at this moment, something happened. Space itself exploded. A pair of hands suddenly appeared out of nowhere and descended upon them. And following the appearance of this scene, the entire sea of stars instantly turned berserk. He even let out a series of whimpers. It sounded like the howls of ghosts and the howls of wolves. Woo, woo, woo. Countless stars began to collapse one after another. Like a counterattack, he charged into the void. Instantly, Long Fei hugged Jojo and retreated explosively. Facing such a violent power, Long Fei did not want to take it head-on. What made him even more worried was the two hands that had suddenly appeared in the air. Who could it be? In the instant Long Fei's figure disappeared, the explosive power above the entire sea of stars also directly shot towards Long Fei. Moreover, it seemed to be selective, only towards Long Fei. Damn it, you're targeting me again? Fury rose in Long Fei's heart as well. Instinctively, he could sense that the sea of stars had suddenly changed and was now filled with hostility towards him. It was as if he wanted to stay here forever. If Long Fei could still tolerate this kind of situation, then it wouldn't be him. Jojo, protect yourself. Since we can't leave, Let me see who it is. Long Fei coldly snorted. Then a fist shot out. Boom. Asterisk a punch blasted out, shattering the entire planet. Even if it was the power of the Sea of Stars, it would still be useless against Long Fei's terrifying killing power. But there were too many of these planets. Without giving Long Fei time to catch her breath, she attacked once again. As for Long Fei, she too jumped forward and landed right in the center of the Star Berserk, destroying it with punch after punch. Rumble, rumble. A boom rang out, and everything shook. The sky was trembling, space was collapsing, and a sea of stars was crashing down. The entire scene was like the apocalypse, extremely terrifying. At this time, a figure completely appeared in the sky. However, at this moment, his body was extremely unique. His entire body was brimming with an aura of the vast expanse, causing others to feel as though it was surreal. It was as if this person was not from this world. And at this moment, it was the heavens. The starry sky was freezing cold. The starry sky was freezing cold. His killing intent gathered into a net and descended one after another, enveloping the entire dragon courtyard within it. Even if there was only one supreme realm, the number of people present was absolutely not something that the Dragon Court could compare with right now. In the Dragon Court, there was only little unrivaled and Hong Yi, plus 1,000 god of boundary. Li Yuanba and the others were currently in closed-door cultivation, so they could not make a move. In other words, they were the only ones who could make a move in this battle. However, in front of the people of the honored world, 1,000 god of boundary was just too weak. War wasn't something where one wasn't afraid of death and could change the outcome. Even if they had decided to fight to the death, they were prepared to use their bodies to fight for the Dragon Court. However, weakness was weakness. There was no substitute for it. And just like now, the moment the people from the noble world made their move, a grave and terrified look appeared on their faces. This was an instinctive reaction. In the face of life and death, no one could remain indifferent. So. Within the noble world, the million-strong army began their frenzied bombardment. Streaks of dazzling energy were like shooting stars or fireballs as they instantly illuminated the starry sky. Little Rascal's countenance remained unchanged as the light of fire shone upon its young face. In the blink of an eye, a trace of evil flashed within her bright eyes. "Young lord, shall we make a move?" "Yes, young lord, let us go first. Even if we die, we must bite off a piece of this group of bastards' flesh." A bunch of bastards. Today is the day to make them bleed in the Dragon Court. The 1,000 realm god of boundary as all opened their mouths with blazing eyes. They did not know the result. They were afraid of death. However, from the moment they had followed Long Fei, they had already expected this outcome. At this moment, they finally had the chance to make a move. Just do it. But before they could make a move, they were directly stopped by Hong. Don't worry. Before Long Fei left, she had already prepared a plan. There aren't enough people to kill. I had originally thought that the army of 10,000 worlds would come. Looks like Long Fei was really sniping them down. Hong, he said with a look of regret. Don't say it for the Dragon Court. Just for their sake, Long Fei had done too much. One person attacking 10,000 worlds was to give them a bit of hope. And how could Hong Yi not understand? The only reason Long Fei had not returned was because she wanted the Dragon Court to undergo a transformation as well. Only through a baptism of blood and fire would the Dragon Court be qualified to establish itself in this 10,000 worlds. Otherwise, relying on him alone would be a joke in the end. At this moment, the expression in little unrivaled super hottie's eyes changed. Previously, when the Honorable Realm's envoy said that Long Fei was going to die, he was shocked in his heart. Now that Hong Yi said this, his heart relaxed. And then, his killing intent soared to the sky. Ancestor, don't waste time with them. My old man is outside attacking the 10,000 worlds. If we can't even stop the noble world, then we would be doomed. Do you still have any face-to-face with my father? Stop talking. Let's start fighting. The killing intent of little unrivaled super hottie started to surge. Then, he moved his hand and let go of the injured dog's rope. Woof woof. Big Yellow rushed out of the sky in the blink of an eye. He opened his eyes angrily and, amidst his roars, opened his bloody mouth. After which, the power of the astral demons instantly erupted from his body. As he opened his mouth wide, thousands upon thousands of cultivators from the transcendent realms were directly shredded into pieces before being swallowed whole. At this moment, Big Yellow had turned into an extremely fierce and sturdy body. This, the power of a star demon. A dog can use the power of a star demon? Is this a F***king joke? Could this be the Dragon Court's trump card? The people from the noble world panicked and stopped in their tracks. In front of a dog, they were scared out of their wits. They are strong, of course. However, don't forget, Big Yellow was a transformation of the star demon god of boundary, and her power was no weaker than her own. Furthermore, during this period of time, under little unrivaled training, she was constantly devouring the astral beasts transformed by the people of the star demon realm, and was even able to absorb them at all times, withdrawing the evil energy and power of Nether from Xiao Wudi's body. He started to feel the six forces when Xiao Wudi was in closed-door cultivation. The power of the rules of the star demon became more and more perfect. It could be said that the current him was even more tyrannical than when he was at his peak. The expressions of the 12 people from the noble world also became incomparably ugly. He was acting tough a moment ago, but now he was blocked by a dog. This kind of change made them feel extremely unhappy. Then, a figure walked out from the group of 12. No matter how amazing a dog is, it's just a dog. War order, destroy. A token suddenly appeared in his hand. An endless destructive aura burst out from it, rushing straight towards Big Yellow. But Big Yellow didn't move at all. He didn't place this kind of power in his eyes at all, and even used his body to withstand the attack. Boom, 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 boom. A destructive force erupted from the battle order and struck the sky again and again. In the blink of an eye, Big Yellow's figure was completely submerged within it. With just this level of ability, you still dare to act cool in front of my respected world? You've become an idiot, right? It's just a dog. How awesome do you think it is? Isn't it just saying that if we die, we die? In the middle of the air, the people from the transcendent realms said, incomparable arrogance. However, right at this moment, boom, the space that had been submerged by the destructive energy earlier suddenly exploded with a loud sound, following which, a furry hand grabbed him, and he immediately stepped out. Then a claw descended. Boom. Asterisk the war envoy was pressed down to the ground by Big Yellow's claw. At this time, Big Yellow's figure gradually appeared. He stood in the air with a proud and complacent expression on his face. He turned around to look at little unrivaled, as if he was taking credit for something. Ha, well done, Big Yellow. With such ability, you're still attacking my dragon court? If one of your subordinates is enough, I'll torture you. Acting cool, putting on another act for me to see. Little Unrivaled laughed out loud. His eyes were filled with incomparable joy. As for Big Yellow, he gave him a look of disdain. Then, he turned around and swung his claw down. No, save me. The realm envoy's eyes were suddenly filled with incomparable fear as he frantically struggled. However, the power of Big Yellow was not something he could compare with. Without any resistance, Big Yellow's claw pierced through his chest, instantly killed. At the same time, the remaining 11 cultivators, and even the million members of the realm, stared in shock and disbelief. He was completely stupefied. Just a moment ago, he was still full of confidence, looking as if he was determined to get it. In an instant, he looked like he could destroy the Dragon Court. But now he was completely stunned by Big Yellow. It could swallow the heavens in a single gulp, destroying 10,000 people. One claw kill an envoy, unparalleled in ferocity. Their path of conquest was blocked even before it had begun. What was even more unbearable was that the person blocking them was not a human, but a dog. Roar! Big Yellow roared. It was as if he was unparalleled in this world. He was filled with a sense of loneliness. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.